rider in France in recent years, but he's now switched to triathlons, very fit rider, but this is something new for him. He says, it's my first Dakar, my first ever African rally. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy in doing this, but I wanted to start the Dakar. And being the 20th Dakar, of course, it's a little bit extra magical. So it was very important to me. So the 34-year-old, who actually lives just down the road from this first stage at Le Chartres, he lives at Montluçon, and had a little look at the stage before the competitors made their way officially on the first stage of this year's event. As for the front runners on yesterday's stage, they didn't really try too hard. They were being very careful with their machinery and looking forward to the event going on to Africa. So the likes of Stefan Peter-Hansel was down in 15th place, Yuri Arkerons was in 34th place. The cars had a tough time in the mud. The stage was stopped after competitor number 273, with the remaining cars and trucks being given the same time of that slowest vehicle, which in fact was about 45 minutes slower than the lead car, giving all the remaining cars and trucks a hefty handicap already. The Mitsubishis confirmed their pre-event status as favourites by taking the top 4 places, with Frenchman Bruno Sabi setting the pace 16 seconds faster than last year's winner Kenjiro Shinazuka. Sabi said afterwards that the stage had more closely resembled the RAC Rally than any African terrain they may encounter later, but it was important, he reckoned, to push right from the start. Fastest behind the Mitsubishis, the buggy of Jean-Louis Schlesser, but the conditions didn't really suit the other two-wheel drive machines, and the first pro truck was that of Larry Ragland in 9th position. Stories from yesterday, well, several of them as ever. The first retirement of the Dakar was in fact a 23-year-old Japanese student riding a Kawasaki in his first ever event. He was already tired when he reached this special stage, having ridden for some 200 miles. It took him 3 hours and 17 falls to complete the rather small stage. It was only 11 kilometers long, and he wasn't authorized by the stewards of the event to continue any further, not surprisingly. He has promised to train a little harder before he makes his return to the event. On the other hand, German enduro rider Herbert Scheck is back on the Dakar on a KTM this year. He's now 65 years old, but riding without his daughter this time, as she reckons she's getting too old for this kind of adventure. Just some of the heroes that take part in the Dakar, whether they be in 4 wheels or on 2 wheels. It's made up of a host of characters trying to test themselves out against nature as they go through the various different stages towards Senegal and the capital, Dakar. So a great variety of machinery competing, but no trucks taking part in the first stage. By the time the trucks should have gone onto it, it was just too muddy, too cut up, and they didn't think that they would be able to make it through at all. So the trucks had a bit of a day off, as it turned out, on the 1st of January. The competitors then continued down the N20, which runs through France, heading down towards southern France. It's quite a long drive or ride for them, but a lot of fans along the route, and a chance for the fans of the Dakar to celebrate and applaud their heroes. They watch it on French television avidly. It really is a huge event in France, but of course over the last few years they haven't actually had a chance to see any of the riders or drivers, as they've started from Granada in Spain, and indeed last year they started from Dakar itself, doing a loop, if you like, from Dakar and then back to Dakar again. So the French people really have got out and taken the opportunity to see their heroes as they make their way through France and on towards the ferry ride to Morocco from the southern tip of Spain. The amazing quads at present as well on this year's Dakar. Kenjiro Shinazuka bringing his Mitsubishi in towards the end of the day, having completed that small stage, but they did have to do quite a lot of road driving yesterday. to make their way down to southern France, ready for the start of today's stages. This rider, number 144, he's explaining that he'd actually forgotten to switch over the fuel tap from the rear fuel tank to the front fuel tank on his bike, but he got going again. And last night, all of the competitors arrived in Narbonne. The 20th anniversary is a good opportunity to look back over all of the different Dakars. And the first one, 1979, Boxing Day, it started from Trocadero in Paris. And that very first Dakar rally lasted nearly 3 weeks, over a total distance of around 10,000 kilometers. And 90 bikes and some 80 cars entered. No trucks started out on that very first Dakar. Of those 90 bikes and the 80 cars, there were 74 finishers who made it all the way to Dakar. They travelled through Algeria, Niger, Mali, and then into Senegal. They weathered a terrible storm around Agadez, and there were no factory cars or bikes entered in those days. The first ever Dakar stage was won by a Range Rover, that of Jackie Privé. One of the unusual entries was the Renault KZ 11 Cheveux 11 CV of 1927, the same model of car as used by Captain Etienne for an epic journey across Africa in that year. The event was won by Cyril Neveu on a Yamaha, while the first car home was the Range Rover of Genestier, Tebio and Le Mordant. And the Marot brothers were second in their remarkably resilient Renault 4. Nicknamed the Moroccan Bacha, today's stage lay between Nador and Er Rachidia, and the competitive section alternated between fast stretches and twistier routes near the Algerian border, before taking to the tarmac roads to finish the liaison to the bivouac. And so bikers prepared this morning to set off from the north coast town of Nador, the link with Spain into Africa. Morocco is still largely populated by the descendants of the Berber inhabitants who settled the area thousands of years ago and at one time controlled all the land between Morocco and Egypt. It's a diverse country scenery-wise, with 4 distinct mountain ranges interspersed by plateaus and plains, with around 28 million people living in Morocco. Well, there wasn't a great deal of time for Stefan Peter-Hansel to look at the scenery as he set off on the route today, and indeed Stefan Peter-Hansel set the fastest time, although he was only second fastest at the penultimate checkpoint. A final burst of speed saw him take the stage win by 1 minute and 5 seconds, and thus take the overall lead by over 2 minutes. Richard Sankt, number 5, 12 seconds behind Tiernan over the 150-mile stage. Richard Sankt was actually third fastest today and moved up to second position overall, the man who won the Atlas Rally in 1997. So second fastest today was this man, Kari Tiernan on the KTM, fastest up to the third checkpoint, but pipped by the Yamaha rider Peter-Hansel at the end. The 6 times World Enduro champion getting used to Dakar riding conditions for the first time, and he's moved up to a very impressive third place overall. Number 19, Juan Roma, 6th today, the 25-year-old Spaniard who'd gone well in Spain, suitably enough, but he was nearly 7 minutes slower than Stefan Peter-Hansel, and that dropped him down to 4th place overall. Roma, winner of the 1995 Baja Aragon, and anxious to get a good performance in on this year's Dakar. And Frenchman, another KTM rider, so many of them below Peter-Hansel in the ranking now. Alain Perez, he was 5th today, and he rides in 5th place in the overall standings. But today was a real chance for all the competitors to get into some good, long, twisty African terrain. Giovanni Sala was also running competitively once again today. The other enduro rider who's gone so well on the event so far, set the 11th fastest time. Perhaps more impressive on the shorter European stages, but the 3 times enduro world champion in the 250 class on his first Dakar, 34-year-old Italian, just perhaps finding his feet in Morocco. Some good performances today as well from the likes of Andy Hayden of Australia, the man from Adelaide, winner of the 1997 Australian Safari, which earned him this ride on a Works KTM on the Dakar. Andy Hayden was 7th fastest today and moves up into 8th place overall. A very impressive performance from the Australian. Jordi Arcaron's also going reasonably well today. He was 8th fastest. He's moved up to 9th overall. The 35-year-old Spaniard who's switched from motocross to enduro riding to become 4 times the Spanish champion and winner of the Atlas and Master Rallies, still to win this classic Dakar event. Well, he's a little bit off the pace at the moment, but don't count Jordi Arcaron's out yet. He will gradually move up the order, I'm sure, as we go through the next few days. And another one of the top riders to watch out for, Fabrizio Mioni. 9th place on the stage today, and he's now in 10th place overall. Also riding on the KTM, and in fact the top 11 places, except for the all-important #1 position, are filled by KTMs. The first BMW is that of Eddie Orioli here, the #2 rider, the Italian, former 4-time winner of the event, but down in 11th place overall. Having said that, his gap between himself and Peter Hansel is just under 14 minutes, and that's a gap that can easily be made up on the longer stages still to come. There were some other impressive performances today, notably for the South African rider, the 8 times winner of the Roof of Africa rally, Alfie Cox, who was 4th fastest today. Very impressive indeed, and he's obviously going to be one to watch, also on a KTM. As for the British riders, John Deacon lies in 14th place, he's still going well. Simon Pavey, 79th. Nicholas Craigie of the Irish team is 104th. Adrian Lappin, 121st. Vinnie Fitzsimon is 124th, and Richard Fair is 136th. There are still some results to come in at the end of the day. It was very tricky today. The main difficulty was to avoid falling. I fell again, like yesterday, but thankfully without problems, just like yesterday again, except for a few marks on the bike. But really no problem. I lost perhaps 1 or 2 minutes, not so much, and most important, I didn't hurt myself. Well, I've already been talking about how the top 10 places apart from that Yamaha of Peter Hansel are filled by KTMs, and KTM have got their strongest team ever, including 10 Works riders this year, split into 2 teams. The factory team has 2 trucks supporting them, and of course Heinz Kinnig-Gardner in charge of the whole operation.
I like to have a big team because like last year, after 5 days, all our team was almost finished because of having crashes and technical problems. So this year we have the double number of riders.
Heinz Kinnig-Gardner, a great rider himself, although never having won the Dakar. Last year here he crashed out and unfortunately was unable to continue, and a very nasty crash on the Australian Safari the year before last has seen him have to avoid riding for a while, but still a very important man in control of the KTM outfit. So the results of today's stage then. Peter Hansel setting the pace by over a minute from Kari Tiernan and Richard Sankt. Alfie Cox from South Africa, that great performance, 4th fastest. Alain Perez and Juan Roma 5th and 6th. And in the overall standings, Peter Hansel now has the lead by just under 2.5 minutes from Richard Sankt, with Kari Tiernan, Juan Roma, Alan Perez and Alfie Cox moving up into 6th place. Today's stage was a 344-kilometre trail, which put the emphasis on the driving and riding skills, crossing the Chevi sand dunes in the first third of the test and then proceeding to Ouarzazate. "167 bikers took the start of the stage this morning. 4 French riders were unable to continue. Temperature around 18 degrees, a little bit cloudy. There was even some rain in the air, believe it or not, even though we were in North Africa. Stefan Peter Hansel setting the pace initially over the stage. The man really everybody expecting to continue to stretch his lead. He'd taken the lead yesterday and it looked as though he was set to continue to do so. Helicopter pictures from above reminding everyone of a very, very close escape for some French journalists on yesterday's stage. It was a helicopter crash involving a journalist and a cameraman for the French channel France 3, but miraculously no one was seriously hurt, although the pilot suffered arm and shoulder injuries and has been flown back to France. The debris was spread over around 50 metres and the motorcyclists who came upon the scene were obviously very, very concerned indeed. They were actually filming Peter Hansel when it happened, but thankfully, as I say, there were no serious injuries in that incident. Back to today's event, and Stefan Peter Hansel was riding along with Kari Tiernan, number 11 here, the Finnish brilliant enduro rider of the last 10 years. But the two of them didn't manage to get it quite right. Although they were going very quickly, as I mentioned, over the first part of the stage, it was to go wrong for them a little bit later on in terms of navigation. There are several checkpoints along the way on each of these routes. Normally there's 4 checkpoints as they go along. They have to get into the checkpoint, and for the motorcyclists it's very important that they go there to refuel as well. The cars have enough fuel on board to be able to make it through the entire stage without having to refuel, but for the motorcyclists it is important to do some quick refueling before continuing on. As they came into this checkpoint, Peter Hansel and Tiernan, as I mentioned, were basically setting the pace, although there was a slight problem for Stefan Peter Hansel. As the refueling operation started, he leapt to start undoing some of the bits and pieces at the side of the engine cover of his Yamaha, and it proved that there was a gear selection problem that was slowing him down somewhat. In fact, he nearly got a bunch of petrol in his face, which didn't help too much. But Peter Hansel explained what was going on. "My gearbox is locked in 3rd gear. It's been like that for about 100 kilometers. So I have to repair it. It's just going to lose me too much time." So Peter Hansel getting to work with the spanners. He's got one of the best support crews there is in the Dakar, the Yamaha Motor France team, who've been doing this for so many years. Kari Tiernan riding alongside him though.
At the beginning I think that he must have some problem because he was going very slow, but I couldn't pass him because there was so much dust.
And Tiernan would be the first one to get away from this checkpoint, having refueled. He didn't have any mechanical worries, and so he was able to continue. But Peter Hansel then went after him, and it was at around this time, as Alan Perez also caught up to these two, that it all went wrong. There was some bit of confusion on the route to take a little further along, where there was a very faint route off to the right, which was the correct route. A lot of riders, including Peter Hansel and Tiernan, just went straight on and missed the right fork altogether. Peter Hansel still a little bit concerned perhaps about his mechanical problems, and involved with Tiernan as well, perhaps wasn't concentrating enough on the navigation. He went a long way down the route before he realised he'd gone wrong, and that lost him around 20 minutes. He wasn't the only one to get it wrong, but it did mean that he lost the overall lead. And that picture, the classic sight of motorcyclists circling, trying to find their route, we've seen it so many times on the Dakar. Today, it was the 5 times winner who made the mistake. or two riders having some nasty moments. One Dutch rider breaking his wrists today in a fall and marking the end of his attempt to make it to Dakar. Fastest today was Fabrizio Mioni, the Italian, and by doing so he's taken the overall lead at the rally. Juan Roma right up there with him though in the overall ranking. The two of them rode together today. Terry Magnaldi on another KTM, still riding with a headache after his fall on one of the spectator stages in Europe, where he managed to break his crash helmet, but he moved up from 15th to 4th place today thanks to getting the navigation right. And Eddie Orioli also had a reasonable day aboard his BMW F650. He's up to 8th overall. The Slovenian Jaroslav Katrinak has moved up into 6th position, and the Spaniard Jordi Arcarons, number 4 on another of the KTMs, down in 9th place after yesterday's stage, but today's result, 6th fastest, sees him move up into more familiar territory, the top 3. Well, I had that little mechanical problem at the start, and I really just wasn't concentrating enough on the track, on the route that I had to follow, and I then got lost following another rider. It just happens sometimes. The Dakar is still long. My objective is not to think of the classification. I want to ride steadily and ride safely in Morocco. For me, the Dakar begins at Zouerat. I won today, but it really doesn't mean anything.
Perché secondo me la Dakar comincia a Zouerat e quindi il fatto che oggi abbia vinto non vuol dire niente.
It was okay for me, but it's a long way until we get to Dakar. Lots of stages still to go and lots of dangers along the way. It's good to know that you're first or right up there, but tomorrow I won't be thinking of that. I'll just ride quietly if everything is okay. Then I shall hopefully be at the top of the table.
Pero sin preocuparme demasiado de ir líder de la carrera.
So the results of today's stage, seeing Mioni ahead of Roma. Let me tell you that John Deacon had a good stage. The British rider was 9th fastest on today's stage, which has put him up into 13th position overall. He did have a mishap after the stage though. Unfortunately, he hit a car during the liaison stage after the special, but it seems that he got away with it and is okay. So all happening as we go into Africa with the bikes. We'll be back with the cars. The contrast between the machinery and the peaceful, wide-open spaces of Morocco. And so they reached the bivouac at Ouarzazate for last night's halt, and the celebrations of the Galette de Roi, the King's Festival, celebration of Epiphany, and that was going on last night in the bivouac in Ouarzazate. Quite cold temperatures though, it was around -5 degrees C. They might be on the edge of the Sahara Desert, but it still gets very chilly indeed. And presents being handed out along with the Galette de Roi Festival. Andre Dessoud also there to pick up a little bit of a gift. In fact, although it looked like it was all fun and games last night in the bivouac, there were some protests going on from the motorcycle teams about the GPS system that's been supplied by the organisers. Some of the bikes are finding that they're not proving very reliable. They're not picking out their checkpoints as accurately as they should do. And, well, Andre Dessoud got himself a nice watch, but as I say, certainly some of those bike teams are a bit concerned about the GPS systems as supplied by the organisers this year. We saw that Stefan Peter-Hansel was in trouble yesterday. He had a problem with the gear change, first of all, but he also had sprained his thumb in one of the falls he suffered on one of the earlier days, and he's having some difficulty operating the throttle. So last night in the bivouac, they tried to make some changes and make it more comfortable for him. He says, I hurt my thumb yesterday, and I've asked for a bigger throttle grip, but in fact, it's really not proving any better. I have less feeling like that, so I think I'll keep the standard one for now. So working his mechanics hard, but they're used to this kind of thing. But it was also those problems with the gear selector. That had put him off a bit in the first place. That's partly why he got the navigation wrong yesterday, because he was having to change gear by hand.
This spare part on the shift pedal, and this spare part is directly in contact with this one. So this one to be on the same level to pass the speed. And the problem is that without this one, he can't pass the speed normally. So what we make on this bike, he has this safety selector here in case of problem. So what he made today is that he put this shift pedal just on this arm of transmission. So it was not comfortable for him to pass the speed. So he had to pass the speed with his hand, and it was a problem because it was not possible for him to concentrate on his driving and on his speed. So that's why he fell down today.
So explanations there, and pass the speed I think means change gear in this case, because that's what Stefan was having to do, having to change gear by hand, and as Kowalski pointed out there, it did rather affect his concentration in navigation. Today's stage, called the Edge of the Desert because they're running very close to the Sahara, a long leg of over 1,000 kilometers in all, competitive section of 354, over 220 miles on rough vehicle braking terrain. Number 38 rider was fastest today, Jaroslav Katrinak, and he became the first Slovakian to take the fastest time on a stage of the Dakar. Fastest by only 16 seconds, but it moved him up into third place overall. Katrinak has come from the world of enduro riding. We've mentioned quite a few riders in this year's event who haven't got much experience perhaps in rally raids, but have had great success in enduro riding in the past. He won the Enduro World Championship in the four-stroke class in 1991. And although he's not part of the KTM Works team, he's actually one of the privateers, like many others who've rented the bike off KTM. He's still highly rated by the Austrian Heinz Kinnegadner, who runs the KTM outfit. Stefan Peter-Hansel, second fastest today, trying to make up some of that lost time that the gear selection and navigation problems had caused him yesterday. He did gain around 3 minutes on the leader, Juan Roma. A very fast stage, this one, suiting the power of the 850cc twin-cylinder Yamaha. Really able to open that throttle in spite of his rather sore thumb and gain some ground on the opposition. Number 6, Oscar Gallardo on the BMW, third today, up to fourth place overall. One of the official factory riders, and BMW back in a rally raid for the first time in 13 years this time. Using the F650, it's a single-cylinder bike. It's slightly heavier than the KTM, but it's proving to be pretty rapid, and Oscar Gallardo and Eddie Orioli are performing well. Overall leader, though, still is number 19, Juan Roma, fourth today, and the overall leader by some 2 minutes and 27 seconds. The top 9 bikes are still within half an hour of each other, and in fact, if you just take the top 5 motorbikes, they're only separated by some 9 minutes. It's pretty impressive when you imagine that they've been competing over 220 miles of competitive stage today, and yet the differences are still that small. Richard Sankt was 5th today, 6th overall. Problems for fellow French KTM rider today, though, Alain Perez, who suffered engine failure and was stranded out on the stage. So as Richard Sankt continued on his way, there proved to be problems for Perez and for others. Hubert Auriol on the radio, explaining back to base what had happened. Thierry Magnaldi, one of the favourites for the event, fallen early in the stage, damaged the fuel tank badly of his motorbike, basically irreparable, also damaged his wrist, possibly broken it. He fell on Château-Lestour on the second day of the event, and now he's out altogether.
dans une succession de bosses, la moto l'a un petit peu décollé.
Well, I just jumped a little bit too hard over some bumps. I slid, the bike crashed very badly, and the rear fuel tank is too badly damaged. There's nothing I could do, I have to stay there.
Et puis malheureusement, la moto a mal chuté, le réservoir arrière a complètement éclaté. Le guidon aussi, donc
handlebars as well are also damaged. There's just no way I can do any more. So disappointment indeed for Thierry Magnaldi, who was one of the fancied runners. Problems here for Andy Hayden, the Australian rider, on board his KTM, but thankfully he managed to get himself going once again. One or two disappointments all the way down the order today. Kari Tiainen, the Finnish rider, another enduro man, also in trouble.
You know, I thought 20 kilometers ago we met the last time and the bike was running perfectly nice, and just here, click, and no compressor anymore. I don't know what happened, but...
And the engine is out?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
What a shame, because Kari Tianen's really been a bit of a star on the event so far. Great disappointment to see him out so early on. And, well, obviously the KTM challenge still very strong with all those bikes up there in the top 10, but that'll be a disappointing loss to have taken out Magnaldi and Tianen in one day. Fabrizio Mione was 6th today, up to 2nd overall. This is Alfie Cox, the South African, 8 times winner of the Roof of Africa Rally, and very used to this kind of terrain, no problem for him. He did well, 7th today, 7th place overall. Jordi Alcaron's the Spaniard, the experienced Spaniard, the man who's finished on the podium so many times in the Dakar, but still to step onto the top step. And going well, he was 8th today, 8th place overall, still losing a bit of ground though to the likes of Peter Hansel, and that really will matter at the end of it all. Can't afford to lose minutes at this stage. Eddie Orioli, 9th fastest, 9th place overall on the 2nd of the BMWs in the top 10. And a great performance from John Deacon, the British rider, 10th today, 10th overall, the KTM dealer from Plymouth. Finished 17th on the Dakar last year, failed to finish in 1996 when he dislocated his shoulder. He survived hitting a car yesterday, but his knee is a bit strapped up as a result of that. A car drove into him on the liaison section, but it didn't seem to slow John down at all today, going really well. As for the other British runners, Simon Pavey is 84th, Alex Marr is 131st, and for the Irish team, they're all still there. None of them managed to finish last year, but Nicholas Craigie's in 101st, Richard Fair's 116th, Adrian Lappin is 132nd, and Vinnie Fitzsimon is in 133rd. But what about Jaroslav Kaczynak, fastest today? He says, I'm not at 100% concerning the riding, but I think that navigation will be hard during the coming days. I don't know yet how I'll do, it's getting better every day. And to learn, the best way is to follow a good rider with a lot of experience. As we look at the result, we've just heard some news, in fact, from race headquarters, that there is a change to the result from today, and it looks as though Peter Hansel was actually fastest on the stage. After all, Kaczynak has been put down to 6th position, so it looks as though there are changes. In the overall standings, it means that Roma Mione are still 1 and 2, but Peter Hansel has moved up into 3rd place, so last-minute changes coming through. Peter Hansel moving back up the order. And so on to today's stage. From Samara to Zouairat, 494 kilometres of special stage, now in Mauritania. No marked trails in some parts, also dunes and some real navigational work for the co-drivers. And we go straight on to the event with Richard Sankt with an onboard microphone today. He says, hello, this is Richard Sankt. Today we've completely changed the nature of the track. This has got stones all over the place. We're getting into Mauritania, and we can see that with this special we are travelling extremely quickly. I've been flat out for more than 80 kilometres now. Just got to wait and see. I think tonight it's going to be a big gap between myself and Stefan Peter Hansel, because today is a stage that suits the twin-cylinder engine of the Yamaha. As you can see, I'm flat out. We have wind ahead of us, and I'm only at 135 kilometers per hour. I think Stefan will be going faster. Well, absolutely right. Stefan Peter-Hansel was going faster today. He was able to use the power advantage of that Yamaha to his benefit. The 850cc twin-cylinder Yamaha, which won't be allowed in 1999 on the Dakar Rally. They're excluding this type of machinery from the event. So this is perhaps Peter-Hansel's last chance, at least on this particular machine. Was fastest today by just under a minute. But importantly, he gained 17 minutes on Juan Roma, which has put Peter-Hansel into the overall lead. Indeed, he was running flat out for so much of the stage, like the other riders, that he was running short on fuel by the end of the stage. He actually had to back off the throttle a bit. He was only getting 15 miles to the gallon, and they normally allow for better economy figures than that. Number 10, Carlos Sotelo on the Cagiva, second fastest today, but down in 8th place overall, the young Spanish rider. He has had one third-place finish on the Dakar. That was back in 1996. Fabrizio Mioni, the Italian, back up to second place overall now after being third fastest today. And Oscar Gallardo, number 6, fourth today on the twin-cylinder 650cc BMW. The Spaniard is the best placed BMW in 5th position. He finished second to Peter-Hansel on last year's event when he was riding a Cagiva. But today there was this very nasty-looking fall for David Costera. Several fallers indeed on today's stages. David Costera is support rider for Yamaha Motor France to Stefan Peter-Hansel. It's his job to come along and pick up the pieces when there are troubles. This is Flavio Agradi, who was also having some problems of his own and waiting for some assistance to get the bike fired up again. More problems today as well for the experienced Spanish rider, and it looks really as though Jordi Arcaron's attempt to win the Dakar is over for another year, I'm afraid. He lost 4 to 5 hours today with mechanical problems, and that really has put him out of the running. He has decided to try and continue, though, to try and support some of the other KTM riders, but KTM really have had a hard time with Magnaldi in trouble yesterday, Perez, Tiernin, and then Arcarons today. We're on board now with Andrea Meyer, the German girl, riding on the BMW. She says it's really difficult to drive here. Very, very soft. Okay. It's going all right at the moment. You really have to take care and go slowly because there are so many stones, so many rocks. Here you have to keep on the right. I think we can build up a bit of speed here. So Andrea Meyer, the 29-year-old lady competitor from Bavaria, going well today. She completed the Dakar a couple of years ago in spite of a very nasty fall towards the end and won the ladies' trophy on that occasion. Alfie Cox here, the South African, also going well, as we see more pictures of Richard Sankt and Juan Roma, who dropped from the lead to third place overall. Just going back to Alfie Cox for a moment, he made a nice comment this evening. He said he reckoned running so fast today on this stage. He said he'd never gone so fast for so long. He reckoned he needed Michael Doohan's World Championship bike fitted with studded tyres on a stage of this sort of speed. They really were going very, very quickly today. Jaroslav Katrinak, the man we thought had won the stage yesterday until we got results through very late indeed that showed that Peter-Hansel had actually set the fastest time. Katrinak certainly suffering from what seems to be a bit of a glitch in the timing systems, but nonetheless Katrinak is in 7th place overall. Attacking a long stage. Let's hear from some of them. Stefan Peter-Hansel and Britain's John Deacon.
Dans
It was the second part of the stage. I used too much fuel. I was afraid that I wasn't actually going to even finish the stage. I had to back off and ride quite slowly for the last 150 kilometers so as not to run out of fuel before the end. It's a shame. I lost time in the second part, but it's still better than a couple of years ago. At the same place, on the same stage, I retired then, so obviously it's better now.
There was a big hole the other side, and I just went straight in the hole and smashed my face on the road book and the GPS. So I was quite badly hurt, and the bike was upside down. It took me a while to get it going again. So it's been quite a physical day on the bike and also on the body.
So John Deacon there, obviously having a bit of a tough day, but still in 10th place overall. He's still going and doing a fine job. Best position for a British rider for a long time. Stefan Peter-Hansel fastest today. Carlos Sotelo second fastest, and Peter Hansel now taking over the overall lead. There you are, the overall standings see him 2 minutes 25 seconds ahead. But as I mentioned, John Deacon still going well in 10th place. Let's hope he can improve on that throughout the remaining event. Back in the early days once again, just looking at the BMW motorbike performance over the years. This year they're celebrating the 75th anniversary that a BMW bike rolled out of the BMW factory, and they've won the Dakar some 4 times. Hubert Auriol won it in 1981 and in 1983. Gaston Rayet won it in 84 and 85. But Hubert Auriol is happy to see them back.
Everything was new. We didn't have the experience of the preparation of a bike. We didn't know what to do. So it was a time where the man was so important, and of course we needed to have a bike, but it was the experience that you could get from the track which was important.
And that's what Hubert is trying to encourage as he continues running the Dakar. This year BMW back with an official team with 3 riders: Andrea Meyer, Oscar Gallardo and Jean Brucy. In my opinion, it's very important that BMW, as a worldwide manufacturer, comes back to the sport. I'm very happy about it. For myself, of course, it means having the best bike and the best support. They also signed up Eddie Orioli, and Orioli really as a 4 times winner. A great star to have on board. On this Dakar, I'm riding carefully. My main hope is to reach Dakar itself. My race tactic is to be fast enough, but also to look after the bike. I don't want to take too many risks. The guys running up front are going very quickly. Once again, I don't want to take risks. I want to get to Dakar, and there we'll see. And Richard Schalber, the team manager of the BMW attempt this year, saying we want to start as carefully as possible to take care of the equipment, and then at the halfway stage at Gao we can then assess where we are and if we should push harder. So the campaign from BMW continuing on its way with Oscar Gallardo, the top man from the BMW team at the moment, running competitively inside the top 10, in fact in 5th position overall.
Well, we'll find out how many are left as we look at today's stage. Let's start with the bikes. So 680 kilometers on this stage. It's the first of 3 marathon sections on the rally, and this is a 3-day marathon, which means no assistance on either tonight or tomorrow night. Well, they're heading from Zouerat to the middle of nowhere, to an abandoned French Foreign Legion fort out in the western side of the Sahara. Well, 133 starting this morning of those original 171 entries. Peter Hansel, Carlos Sotelo and Fabrizio Mioni all getting ready to go out on this incredibly hard stage. Certainly the toughest day since leaving Paris.
Il va pas bien. Ah, fanculo. Vai, vai GPS di merda. Porco di un cane.
Jordi Acheron's on board saying we're at the end of the special stage and 14 kilometres from the end. Just look at the scenery they're going through today. This is the massive ergs, the shifting sand dunes of Mauritania. Australian Andy Hayden, the African Virgin as he's called, the man from Adelaide, privateer KTM rider and Australian Safari winner. He wins today, takes his first special stage win as we talk to him after the end of the day.
Oh, I loved it, yeah, great. I liked the scene, I liked the dunes. I had a good time, yeah, no problems. I think I buried my front wheel maybe twice, but I had no problems, had a good ride, yeah.
Well, for Stefan Peterhansel, lost on the stage, but would you believe kept his 49-minute lead. Peterhansel, of course, on the 800cc twin Yamaha, about 80 brake horsepower. We talked to Peterhansel about how things went for him. Well, it was difficult today. He said we had to cross these ergs, these shifting dunes with a huge and soft sand. Everyone had to ride together. It was impossible to make any difference really to the order today unless you have problems. And here they are all riding together, the KTM riders, distinctive orange and blue KTM jackets, about half of them factory bikes, all the rest, like Andy Hayden, privateers.
Hola, buenos días.
On board with Jordi Acheron's. Well, he said, here we are at the end of the special stage, 14 kilometres before the end. I've started from my best place in the overall standings, 130. There's a lot of people in front of me and a lot of tracks and a lot of directions to choose. Well, any of you begin PlayStations for Christmas, only PlayStations, there is a very good chance for a new game. Dakar on board. Number 19 there, Juan Roma of Spain. He's on board his KTM, 660cc, 65 brake horsepower, little less than the Yamaha twins, but of course they're lighter at 150 kilograms, so that makes up for a lot. Riding incidentally there with South African Alfie Cox, KTM rider. Richard Saint going through there. Bit of a bent frame after having had a crash yesterday. And then again we pick up Stefan Peterhansel as he comes onto the soft sand, almost goes down. Look at that, ploughing off the fesh, that dusty, rocky plain into the deep sand. Carlos Sotelo, he's riding the Cagiva, one of the only a couple left in the rally. 8th yesterday, 5th today, but stopped Oscar Gallardo. His chain has broken on his BMW. Well, yeah, I broke the chain, he confirmed. He said, I can't use it now because it's too short, so I've got to wait for our service. Big problem for me. Well, the man everyone thought had won a stage the other day, Slovenian Jaroslav Katrinak on his KTM. He has engine failure at the 400-kilometer point, and he is out, having been 7th when he started this morning. Eddie Orioli going through, 12th yesterday, 8th today, a 4-times winner, now on BMW. Well, there's John Deacon on his KTM, the KTM dealer from Plymouth, 86 to 95. He was the British Enduro champion. He's supported by Nick Ashley and Beams, and John Deacon having a really good day today, moving right up the order. 14th on the stage and 9th overall. Great performance by the Plymouth man. Juan Roma, KTM leader until Wednesday when Peterhansel took over, and they're looking again at Hayden. Special stage winners, Jean-Luc Martin goes down on his KTM. Well, let's hear what some of the top riders thought of the stage today. Let's start with Juan Roma. Well, it was a very difficult stage, he said, with dunes after only 40 kilometers from the start. A lot of white sand, and I crashed 3 times. Okay, it was soft, but it holds you up. After the dunes, there was a fairly flat part of the stage, but then I broke my GPS navigation system, and I had to follow Stefan Peterhansel until the end of the stage. It was impossible for me to ride alone. Stefan Peterhansel. It was very tiring. He said it was quite a long stage of nearly 700 kilometers. It began with soft dunes, and I stayed stuck in the sand several times. I, of course, was the opening bike, and I'm the one who's the guinea pig. And we had a lot of off-road with camel grass, which is hard for our suspensions, hard on the arms and hands. At the end's an old track we used many years ago. It was better at the end, but very long and very difficult.
Well, I've had a fairly good day right from the word go. Towards the first fuel stop, I've run out of fuel. It sort of slowed me back a little bit. I luckily had some in the bottom of my tank that I could get out. But from there here, it's been great. Like I love the dunes. I've had a good day. Besides the fuel problem, I've had a really good day. Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at the results after 8 stages, and there's confirmation coming up. Good win today for Andy Hayden there from Roma Saint Archerons, and the overall results: Stefan Peterhansel just 49 seconds ahead of Roma, and 13 minutes ahead of Miomi, 15 minutes ahead of Richard Saint. After the break, we'll have a look at the cars. But before we have a look at the bike results, let's just have a look at some of the logistics behind the rally. And this is the service provided by Yacco, the French oil company. They supply the oil for the rally, and they help everyone with servicing at these service areas. More importantly, they collect all the oil from the bikes, the used oil, which is taken back to France. They also do a lot of help in the villages. This, incidentally, is a light. Might look like a Richard Branson spectacular, but there's a light inside there to guide the bikes in the evening.
The oil partner of this Dakar, and so we've noticed that a lot of bikers needed some technical assistance and some lights. So Yacco decided to create this special area here, where we bring two big lights of 4,000 watts, and every bikers can have a special suitcase where they can put all their technical parts and work all evening. This is not only technical assistance, but this will bring also psychological assistance to those riders, and we are very proud of that.
One of the competitors, Uwe Renner, tells us just what a help this Yacco service is, carrying all their spares and their tools around for these privateers.
Well,
you have to work until about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning most days, especially during the long marathon stages. Remember, there's no other help, so... And sometimes it can become even later than that, and of course we have to start again at 7 in the morning. Dutchman Henk Verkoelen.
Well, actually, the amateurs help each other no matter what brand they're on. You know, if a Yamaha guy comes up and wants to have my spanners, they can have them and I can have their tape. You know, it's a real good atmosphere here, and that's what Dakar is about, I think.
Celebrating this 20th of the Dakar rallies, a look back at the 7th in 1985, one that was particularly special to myself. I did the whole event from start to finish on the road, and this was the longest yet, 14,000 kilometers, 550 starters. Proved to be the toughest Dakar of the 7 to date, reaching too far there into northern Mauritania after Algeria, Niger and Mali. Winter sandstorms forced several stages to be cancelled. Mitsubishi was here in force of its Pajeros, and Rothman's Porsche was back with its 959 four-wheel drive supercars. But it was a very hard one. This was the northern dunes of Mauritania up around Tichit, where the rally came to a halt after sandstorms. This is the little lion, Gaston Rai, winning his 2nd Dakar on board the Marlboro BMW. That was the last time BMW ran a factory team, until this year, in fact. Jean Deroy, beaten by Mercedes last year, came back with his Super DAF, but the Rothmans Porsche attack failed. This was René Medj, last survivor of the 3 959s, breaking just after Timbuktu, and the event was won by Patrick Zanaroli and Andrew Cowan, a 1-2 for Mitsubishi as Gaston Raillet took his second consecutive victory. Just 125 of the 550 starters finished. Well, these are the bikes today, 478 kilometres. The stage called 1001 Dunes, 100% new on the Dakar, cathedral-like sand dunes, reminiscent of the much-missed Tenere Desert of Niger, and they arrive at Tuaudeni salt mines tonight. So only 1 in 5 of the remaining entry did not make El Matri last night. Not so bad for the bikes. 97 of the 171 bikes that started, the others still not in from yesterday. As we pick up people like Juan Roma, second overall in the dunes here. Stefan Peterhansel, Yamaha, Eric Bernard, KTM here in this 20-degree heat. And these massive dunes, the cathedral-like dunes, even bigger than those of yesterday. There is Stefan Peterhansel, still a rally leader. He'll be 4th on the special stage today. Eric Bernard going past him there. As we pick up Fabrizio Mioni. KTM rider and winner of the stage today. Mioni at the moment in 3rd place overall behind Peterhansel and Juan Roma. Well, at one stage it looked like Sala was going to be winning the stage today, but there was a big error by the organisers at checkpoint number 3 of the 4. 269 kilometres into the rally, they made an error about neutralisation. They're supposed to stop people for 15 minutes at refuelling. They didn't. Some bikes were let go, others were held, and so, in fairness, they cancelled the last part of the stage, giving Mioni the win.
Niente, si è rotto il motore. Probabilmente stamattina quando ho acceso la moto il motorino d'avviamento deve aver fatto mezzo giro indietro e ho
what happened. He had a big problem. His bike stopped.
È andata bene, sono partito, sono arrivato fino qua al timbro e qua si è spenta, non sono più riuscito a riavviarla. È un vero peccato perché la moto fino adesso è andata benissimo.
So he said everything was going well, then just suddenly everything stopped. The engine broke and that was it.
Non so cosa faremo da qui in avanti.
So all over for Orioli. In fact, he gave his fuel pump to German teammate Andrea Meyer, the German lady on BMW, so she was able to continue after she had problems at the same checkpoint. Checkpoint 1 just 50 kilometres in. Gallardo and Brucey. Gallardo out of the running after an engine change on Wednesday. Brucey 18th on the special stage today, also out of the top 20. Now picking up Giovanni Sala. Here he is, the man everyone thought had won the stage, the Italian riding for KTM. Finished up in 2nd place, in fact, having completed the stage at top speed, only to be told the last 100 kilometres had been neutralised. 9th overall. John Deacon, there he is, the Brit, riding at speed, 5th on the special today. What a great day for the Plymouth KTM dealer, and he is 8th overall at the moment. Well done, John, keep it up. We'll tell you about the other Brits in just a moment. Well, Juan Roma and Andy Hayden, the man from Adelaide, riding together, and here they are mixing it with the camels. Camels still used, incidentally, on the old salt trails and the caravans going across the desert from the salt mines, the iron ore mines. Would you believe camels carrying iron ore? Roma and Hayden together there, and we pick up Peterhansel, 4th on the special, but still opening up the lead after Roma had trouble. He was waiting for the truck tonight. No KTM trucks had arrived at all at the stage, and like some of the cars, he was without spares. Remember, this is a part of a marathon section, 3 days without any air assistance, so everything has to be brought to them over the roads. Vicious winds today, sandstorms later on as they go through these cathedral-like dunes. There is Roma in 9th place, having finally got everything back together again. Peterhansel keeping his lead and extending that lead to 4 minutes and 48 seconds. He started 49 seconds in front of Roma this morning. Now he's 4 minutes 48 ahead of Roma after 9 stages. Andy Hayden again in the dunes. Everyone having problems. There he is, yesterday's winner, 10th overall today, 10th on the stage today, and 6th overall after getting himself fairly stuck. And John Deacon also there, 8th overall on the dunes, 1 hour 39 back from Peter Hansel, but he's right on the tails of South African Alfie Cox and Australian Hayden. Well, the other British bikers, well, Simon Pavey, he's 57th on his Honda. Vinnie Fitzsimon from Ireland is 93rd. Adrian Lappin is 92nd. And Nick Craigie, 89th. Those 3 Irish riders all on CCM. Well, let's see what the superstars thought. Stefan Peterhansel, it was good. He's had a good stage. We had a lot of erg passages, huge dunes on which you could really surf on these bikes. As we're all together, I had fun climbing the highest dunes, and we had less funny moments though when we were crossing the rocks. We had a lot of navigation, but it went okay. The GPS was good, and today, for a change, we didn't get lost.
Et puis autrement, on a fait beaucoup de hors-piste au cap et ça s'est bien passé, on ne s'est pas perdu.
Italian Fabrizio Mioni. Well, today he said I was really expecting it to be a hard day because of my fall yesterday. My shoulders were hurting me like hell this morning at the start, and I was really taking a lot of precautions. But once I got the rhythm and built up my speed to around the 350-kilometer mark, and it was okay. I fell, Simeone, and saw the bike ahead fall. That didn't start again, so I've 15 minutes to make it at the restart. I lost all my advantage, and I've been flat out all day during the last 150 kilometers. I arrived among the leaders before the finish, and it was hard, but okay.
Prima gli ultimi 150 chilometri ho tirato a fondo e ho arrivato i primi prima dell'arrivo.
Then we talked to South African Alfie Cox.
I've got problems with the engine, you know, and I'm just trying to keep going forward, and I'm just happy that I've made it another day, and I'm hoping the trucks will come tonight and then I can change my engine. If not, I have to go slow again tomorrow till we get to go. It's not too good because you're not racing, you're just riding and keeping the bike going, and it's, for me, that's not interesting. I want to race, but I'm happy to be here today.
Well, let's have a look at the results of stage 9 today. El Mretti to Tao Denny. Oh, look at that. John Deacon of Britain on the KTM there, 5th. What a great performance. His family back in Plymouth must be proud of him. Mioni, Sala, Sotelo, Peter Hansel, and there, John Deacon ahead of Richard Syng. Great stuff. Let's have a look at the overall picture. General Peter Hansel still leading, 4 minutes 58 seconds. Mioni, Syng, Sotelo, and Hayden. And just outside that top 5, in 8th place, John Deacon. Well done. As the rally arrived in Twaudeni from El Mretti, with big problems all day. The hardest day for many years on the Dakar. Day 2 of a 3-day marathon. Many waiting all night for the sweeper trucks like Terry Galletti. Well, Galletti telling us my partner had the same problem this morning. I think it's the same. We got the same bikes. It stopped and won't restart. I think it's the electrics. I don't know why. How many kilometers still to go? 400. So not just mechanical breakdowns, some out of fuel and some just too tired to continue. Many of them racing for 48 hours with only a couple of hours sleep. That's 2 Le Mans 24 hours back to back. Well, among those arriving, David Castera on the Yamaha amongst the 93 bikes who are still in the rally as far as we know, after surviving a big accident on day 6. He's currently 14th, as others arrive in the bivouac. Far out of fuel, says this biker. About an hour ago, Well, he's waiting for the camion. In fact, he's not at the bivouac. He's still out in the desert. He's wearing his survival blanket, keep the cold off. 35 degrees in the daytime, but -2 at night with the sand not retaining the summer heat. Other bikers who've stopped as well. This is short of the bivouac. Well, everyone's got different problems. He says, I've destroyed myself in the dunes. I've got fuel, but I'm totally lost. Everything's gone wrong. That man riding a quad, incidentally. And of course, in the morning, you have to arrive 1 hour before the day starts, so he's out of time as well. This is the Austrian truck driver Helmut Krofel in the MAN assistance for KTM. He spent a lot of time yesterday helping others who are stuck. That made him a little bit late himself. Passing Philippe Bermudes on the Yamaha, one of those who can't restart. And look at that, falls off his bike in the desert sandstorm after a truck passes by. He'd actually fallen asleep, waiting for help. Time for a look back at past Dakars. This is 1986, the 8th Dakar, and the longest at 15,000 kilometres. But it started with disaster. Organiser Terry Sabine and 5 others were killed when their helicopter crashed at Guamararus, where the rally will be passing next Monday. Although no one was really in the mood for it, the rally did continue, and it was Rothmans Porsche with their 959s who dominated. Rennie Medj winning for the 3rd time from Jackie Eakes. On 2 wheels, it was Honda against Yamaha, and Honda taking a 1-2-3. Cyril Neveu winning from Gilles Lallet and Andrea Balistreri for the 4th time. 550 starters and only 127 finished. One of the toughest Dakars ever in the 20 editions to date. So a second victory in 3 years for Rothmans Porsche, last time with the 911 four-wheel drives, now with the 959 four-wheel drives. And Roland Kusmal, Porsche factory engineer, congratulates winner Rennie Medj. Cyril Neveu, and who now organises the Atlas Rally, taking the win, but others finding the road to Dakar is as tough as ever. On the beach at Dakar, and the victorious Rothmans team. Well, back to the Dakar Rally here on Eurosport, and this is today's stage, which became a liaison after last night's problems. The Rally 2 strung out, 68 of them still spread between here and Morocco over 3 days. Well, the Tuareg rebels who are fighting for recognition in Mali and Niger held up 7 competitors last night. The reason the event no longer goes through Niger because of the problems, and Gao indeed itself, where they were heading tonight, besieged by the rebels in 1990. Well, basically what happened was armed men attacked Czech Tatras with Kalashnikov AK-47s and bazookas. They stole the 419 factory Tatra at gunpoint, left the 3 crew, Bedřich Sklegnevosky, Petr Hameler and Thomas Tomacek, in the desert. They then shot at 2 Belgian cars, number 273 car here of Koen Wouters, a well-known Belgian singer. Koen Wouters takes up the story. Well, we had to live through something last night which is not the Dakar. We're here for sport and friendship, not for being shot at. Both our Mitsubishis were fired on 10 kilometers back. Just before we arrived here last night at the finish, we have no idea who it was. It was a slow part between rocks. It was an ambush, and suddenly bang, bang, bang. 6 or 7 bullets fired at us.
Comment on dit ça, boule? Balle. Balle? Ah, voilà. 6-7 balles.
Well, the bullets went through the side of the car, smashed the turbo, punctured 2 tyres, and there was also a bullet through the door 10 centimetres from my co-driver's foot. It's crazy, I still can't believe it. It only happened 3/4 of an hour ago, and at the beginning we all laughed. I think nobody really understood what had happened, but now we realise how close it was. Perhaps the shock's coming in a bit. It was that close from our legs or even our bodies.
10 cm plus à gauche ou 1 mètre plus à droite. Et c'était dans une jambe ou dans la fenêtre ou... Ah ouais, c'était des balles, c'était pas légère, hein, c'était the real thing, hein, c'était
The real thing, he says, it was real bullets, really strong bullets, and there they are, there's the holes, automatic fire through the windows and the tyres. Well, that was a big problem. It's not the first time on African rallies that gunfire disrupted proceedings. French Citroën support driver Charles Cobain was shot dead here in the nearby Mali village of Nkadouan in 1991 by Tuareg rebels. And myself, I was shot at in 1984 on the Pharaohs rally by trigger-happy Egyptian soldiers. Well, Hubert Auriol just telling everyone about the problem.
A truck, a Tatra truck, number 71419. We heard the guy, they were speaking, and they said in French that they only wanted to take a truck. So there was no risk for the people, except they've been shooting in some cars, 2 cars who arrived with holes in the car, and they stopped the truck by shooting in the tires.
So Hubert Auriol sending out 2 helicopters today, but they have not found that factory Tatra yet. It has definitely gone missing. They believe headed towards Algeria. So everyone a bit shocked by these events, particularly the Tatra teams from the Czech Republic. Incidentally, Carol Lepre of Tatra taking the lead of the rally yesterday after Gilbert Vecino of Mitsubishi, leader for the first few days, got stuck in the dunes yesterday. Jaroslav Lamak telling us 15 kilometers before the finish we attacked while climbing a hill by bandits. They had guns and even a bazooka. It was a fairly heavy attack. We thought they were going to kill us. So we got out of the truck. They left us on the road, took the truck 200 meters off the track, stopped, put out the lights, and then came back and explained they weren't going to hurt us. They just wanted to take the truck and the material, and they weren't going to harm us. But they took everything we own.
Ils ont expliqué qu'ils voulaient juste prendre le camion et le matériel, ils ne voulaient rien avoir avec nous.
Hubert Auriol, the organiser, telling the rest of the story in French, saying we decided for safety reasons a special stage would become a liaison. Stefan Peterhansel, talking about the liaison today, said, well, it will be less fun and longer than if we were racing, because we've still got to cover nearly 1,000 kilometres. It's a good chance for me to make the difference up, as this morning before the stage I had a great bike, and I could see that all my opponents were in trouble. I think if I'd attacked today, it would have really sealed the rally for me. But for security reasons, I have to agree, I have to respect it. Fabrizio Mioni telling us it's a decision of the officials, I have to respect it too. For me it's okay, I've got problems, I don't have my truck, that's stuck way behind us at the moment, and my bike needs to be repaired for 2 days now. I've got to change wheels, I can't do it, so this decision is actually okay for me. And for Jordi Alcaron's, well, it's the same, he says, because we have to ride for 1,000 kilometres, whether it's a special stage or not. So everyone travelling in convoy, you notice the car drivers, truck drivers without helmets, the bikers, their situation normal, except they're not pushing quite as fast as normal. On board with Eric Bernard now. Bernard pushing hard, despite the fact they're not racing today. And there's John Deacon, picking up John Deacon of Plymouth in 8th place. Oh, and Bernard hits Deacon. Just look at Deacon, he's acknowledging him for some reason, saying, okay, don't worry, but that was our John in 8th place overall. And other people chatting along the route, Mioni and Sala. On board Jean-Pierre Fontenay and Gilles Picard again, you see no helmets, 10-minute 42-second lead. Fontenay just giving a running commentary today as they go along, chance to chat. They don't normally have the chance to chew the cud like this on the rally. They're fiercely racing. He said we've now passed the mid-rally stage, and I must say tonight we only have to finish the prologue and then we begin the race the last few days. When you see the next stage, it's going to be very, very hard after the Sunday rest day at Gao. Well, that's the thing, of course, it is rest day. Tomorrow it's Sunday in the Niger town of Gao, famous for its markets, particularly for cushions. Has its own GTC store there. River Niger, the lifeblood of this part of Africa, just as the Nile is to Egypt. Well, Jutta Kleinschmidt out yesterday, but she tells us the real story. Everyone thought there was the engine had failed on her buggy. She says differently. It was a hard day for us. It wasn't 24 hours, but 36 hours, because now, of course, it's Saturday at 12 o'clock, and we started early yesterday morning. It was a gearbox failure we suffered after 50 kilometers. We were unable to repair it by ourselves because we had to wait for our service trucks, which finally arrived at 8 o'clock in the evening. We immediately started to repair the box, but at 2 o'clock in the morning we were able to continue the stage. Very tricky, crossing the dunes in the middle of the night, pitch black. You could sometimes see only 10 meters. Some very hard landings, and we bent parts of our car. With two-wheel drive car, we got stuck 3 times. We had to wait again for our service truck to pull us out. Finally, we made it here, and we're lucky that today's stage has been neutralized, so we can now refuel and drive carefully to Gao. We hope we're going to be able to start again on Monday. So Jutta suggesting she's not actually out of the rally. We'll have to wait and see, because the organisers may deem otherwise. But anyway, good news if she's back in, but of course out of chance of winning, just as is her teammate Jean-Louis Schlesser, who had a similar gearbox failure 3 days ago.
In Gao sind, können wir eigentlich normalerweise wieder starten.
Well, Mitsubishi team manager Ulrich Bremer telling us we faced a completely new problem today. We don't we're not too worried now about the rally cars, because they'll be able to cruise in convoy to Gao with everyone. They will help each other. Our big concern, those are the trucks, which are now 2 days behind us. The problem we have now is we have to leave fuel drums as supply for our big service trucks while we go on to Gao, because we can't wait any longer, so we have to leave the fuel here in the middle of the desert. If our trucks arrive and there's no fuel, they won't be able to continue, and they'll be out of the rally. We probably will be too, because they're carrying all our major spares and all our tyres. Our focus today then is to guide our 6-wheel trucks as quickly as possible to this place, and then of course they've got another 1,000 kilometres to Gao. Luckily our 4-wheel trucks are with us. Other teams have no support service at all anymore, but these fuel dumps are going to have to be guarded. I hope the organisers are making sure of that, otherwise the same bandits will have the lot. We're trying to help all our competitors as much as possible with filters, oil and everything, but it's a big job without our main service trucks. Well, look at the results, of course, haven't changed much from yesterday, apart from Roma dropping out a second, definitely out of the rally. So Mione moves up into second, Sykes, Sotelo, Hayden and Cox. It makes John Deacon 7th now in the order, and of the others, Ian Pavey is 57th, Ian Craigie in 90th, Lappin 94th, and so we've heard a lot about the problems. The number of competitors have strung out 1,000 kilometres back from Gao. This is the Antonov 72, from which Roger Kalmanovic, who's the ASO safety coordinator, runs all the safety operations, the rescue aircraft, the sweeper brooms. This is Roger. And Roger explains to us, well, the organisation comes on the Dakar, on this Antonov, everything we need to run the rallies here, all our radio communications of our helicopters, aircraft, our trucks, our doctors, emergency equipment, even the sweeper trucks that pick up the bikes which have broken down the desert. It's a transmission unit to any station in the Sahara for Dakar security. We have what's called a C standard. It's like a telex by satellite. All our vehicles have it, and the control points have it. We have people sending us information as well as we can contact them. There's also a big information centre dedicated to the results and standings. And from here we also send information to Paris, back to our main press office there, and of course to Eurosport. And we get backstage and overall results, so the whole thing is run from here. So Roger Kalmanovic, not only the safety coordinator of the rally, but also head of the protocol when they do the reconnaissances prior to the rally. He is a real diplomat. So the rally currently spread out over 3 countries, and in Attar, Zouerat and in Morocco, 156 competitors still in the running. Well, we're still on our Dakar coverage tonight, 20th anniversary of the start of the Dakar, looking at 1989, the 11th of the Dakars, and Ari Vatanen started his rally in spectacular style, rolling his Peugeot on the prologue near Paris. Well, things could only get better from then on. He was running with Jackie Ickx, his Peugeot teammate, and their main competition was the Mitsubishis of Andrew Cowan and Patrick Tambay. Pushing as hard as ever, particularly these Peugeots, which have been banished from the World Rally Championship. Look at Vatanen's car, still bearing those marks of the rollover. Andrew Cowan going through, the man who finished second in 1985 and second again in 1986. Giolale Tarimanyaldi for Yamaha, Franco Pico on Yamaha also. Lale going on to take the win from Pico on the bike section, while on Dakar Beach, Ari Vatanen, despite the rollover, won from teammate Ickx and from Mitsubishi's Patrick Tambay. A year later, 1919, it's the 12th Dakar, 465 competitors and one of the longest of the routes. Stefan Petterhansel out early on in Libya, and this spectacular scenery going from Libya across into Niger. Eddie O'Reilly on the bikes, and big problems for a lot of the bikers. Very, very deep sand here, but Stefan Petterhansel out very early on in the rally after he had engine failure. Peugeot's dominating again in their new yellow livery. And Ari Vatanen conspires to make it 3 wins out of the 4 events he'd done, winning from teammates Born Voldegaard, from Alan Ambrosino. Mitsubishi lucky to make it into 4th, Andrew Cowan. The Pink Flamingos on the Lake Rose. On Dakar Beach, and Eddie O'Reilly wins the bikes for the second time from Yamaha's Carlos Mas. Well, this is today's stage. As we mentioned earlier, it's Africa's second river after the Nile, the Niger, and they go 411 kilometers along its banks. Perhaps a pleasant rest after the flat deserts and massive dunes of the last few days. Let's have a look first at the bikes tonight, see just what happened. The sun over the Niger. Those of you who've been to this part of Africa will find really is stunning. This river, the lifeblood of this part of Mali, Mauritania. The people making the most. They grow rice here, they grow crops, grass, there's mango groves. And where there's water, there's life. Stefan Petterhansel and Carlos Sotelo starting 1st and 4th this morning, racing for position along these far better roads than they've been on the last few days. Still, as you can see, a lot of whoopie-doos, a lot of bumps. I was on this very route in 1985, and it was very, very hard going, especially in 4-wheel drives. Always pitfalls and jumps.
Jean Petit qu'il danse, Jean Petit qui danse, de ses mains il danse, de ses mains, ainsi danse Jean Petit qu'il danse, Jean Petit qui danse, de ses bras il danse, de ses bras, ainsi danse Jean Petit qu'il danse, Jean Petit qu'il danse, de sa tête il danse, de sa tête, ainsi danse Jean Petit qu'il danse, Jean Petit qu'il danse, Jean Petit qu'il danse, de ses pieds il danse, de ses pieds, ainsi danse Jean Petit.
Well, the local rock band giving us some encouragement. Andy Hayden, we saw there, he started 5th this morning, and Stefan Petterhansel and Richard Saint 4th on the stage behind him. But for David Castera, a big problem. First we listened to Richard Saint on board saying, well, we have to be careful, there's a lot of tracks and the sand is very, very soft. You have to look at the road book all the time, and you're always having to concentrate on the conditions of the piste here. The tracks, as you can see, back wheels sliding out there, and then always unexpected jumps as we race up towards Timbuktu. Well, this is David Castor. We saw him have that huge crash in the middle of Morocco 1 week ago. Now he's done it again, the 86-kilometre mark. I don't know exactly where it was, he says. I'm a bit dazed. It wasn't too far from here. I was knocked out. I just remember the bike going sideways, and it took me end over end. That's all. The bike's damaged, but not only the bike this time, me too. I'll try and finish the stage, though, and go on tomorrow morning. But the word from the organisers tonight is it's unlikely he will be allowed to continue, having had concussion. David Castera looks like he joins the list of casualties. Well, Stefan Petterhansel quickest on the early part of the stage, and he and Carlos Sotelo riding together for most of the day. Carlos Sotelo wins the stage and keeps 4th overall. Well, another man we're going to be picking up in a moment, John Deacon, the man from Plymouth, or in fact he's from Saltash, just across the Tamar Bridge in Cornwall, 34 years old, and he runs Plymouth off-road, and he was 19th on the stage today, dropped back 1 place to 8th overall. We're only talking about 18 minutes now behind Giovanni Sala, so it's so close, and he's almost into the top 6 now. Carlos Sotelo going through there as we just wait to see John Deacon. Now, John, incidentally, is on the internet. If you want to send a message to him, the address is www.johndeacon.co.uk. Here he is.
Still got to be careful and look for any possible dangers.
And if John could see the messages I've seen today, he would be astounded. There are dozens and dozens of them, supported by Nick Ashley Beams and by Maidenette. Seeing Hayden there, 3rd on the stage, 5th overall, really at home in the outback sand here. Stefan Petterhansel jumping for joy there. And let's go on board now again with our friend John Deacon.
Whoa, tight one. Oh, wow. Let's go.
This at the moment, Hayden. Really enjoying these conditions, more like motocross they said today.
Whoa!
Here is John Deacon.
And another. Whoa, 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 whoa.
See the Union Jack helmet there. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Typical Cornishman. Well, John really having a great, great event, and we'll be following him, of course, right through to the end. Let's hope he's going to make it. And if he gets into the top 6, you'll see those results published up on the screen each night on the programme. Alfie Cox and Fabrizio Mioni. Now Fabrizio Mioni leading the stage, but his GPS has broken for the 2nd time on this event. He was leading and he finishes 6th, having lost 14 minutes, and loses 2nd place overall to Richard Saint. This is one furious man. Well, I'm not going to translate all that. You can read it for yourself. After 1 kilometre, nothing, impossible to find the way with a compass. I didn't know where to go. I really just had to follow the sun. Well, he explains the organisation gave us the GPSs this year, but they don't work. It's twice it's happened now. They have to give us a guarantee that the GPS is going to work, and if it's not, they're going to have to cancel the times. If it's not working, it's not fair. Tomorrow, I'm going to use my own GPS. I don't care what TSO says.
Rien devant, rien. Je regarde le soleil.
Steering by the sun. Well, the Africans deciding to mimic him. Obviously the local cabaret in Timbuktu. Well, after that interlude, let's have a see what the reactions are from some of the riders today. Back to Mioni again.
Well, it's not just good enough, he said. We cannot run with GPSs that don't work. They changed the rules this year, they give them to us. Rather than letting us use our own, they've got to make a guarantee they are going to work. If it's not working, I'll use my own. Carlos Sotelo, I think I had a good stage today. It's great to win. I'm 4th overall. I could ride fast right from the beginning. After refueling, I saw that Stefan had problems, and I also saw I could catch Mione easily, and I'd like to win a stage. I don't know if I did do it. Of course, confirmation came through, did. And incidentally, Petter Hansel explaining what his problems were. Well, I had a water pump problem, he said, and I was getting some overheating and started to leak through the exhaust, some oil coming out as well. All the radiator water has gone. The engine heated up a bit, so I was riding only 1/3 of the speed since 150 kilometre mark to preserve the engine.
Really technical, so to speak. I enjoyed it a lot. It was good fun, yeah.
Hayden 5th overall, and Richard Sank telling us the first 2/3 were very fast. At the fuel stop, I realised Petter Hansel was faster than I was, and I think it was like that all stage long. Honestly, the stage was really much too fast for KTMs with the monocylinders against the twin-cylinder Yamahas, so it's normal. Well, results of the bikes today, stage 11, Sotelo winning the stage from Petter Hansel, Hayden Sank, Sala and Mione, and John Deacon, just to remind you, finishing 19th on that stage, 34 minutes back, taking it easy. As you saw from those onboard pictures, super spectacular. There's the overall situation. Petter Hansel now 20 minutes ahead of the rally, and just outside the top 6 are Sala and Deacon in 7th and 8th, but they are separated from the leaders by no more than 2 hours. The French Dessoud Nissan team handing out pens that they collected across Normandy over the last 6 months. André Dessoud of Nissan tells us what it's all about. Well, these pens are being collected basically around Saint-Lô in Normandy, where our team's based. Last year, when we came to Timbuktu, we gave out pens to the local schools. It worked well, so this year we asked the children, school children around Saint-Lô to help us, and they collected 10,000 pens. We already made a distribution in Gao today in Timbuktu, and then we're going to be doing it all the way now to Dakar. Well, the school teacher here in Timbuktu said, well, these pens would be a great souvenir of the rally for the pupils. We hope that many more rallies will be able to come in order to give the benefits of this solidarity from our European friends. It's that moment on our coverage of the 20th Dakar. We look back at years past, 1991. We look at tonight the 13th Dakar, unlucky for some. 406 competitors racing through Libya, Niger, Tamale, Mauritania and Senegal. Alard losing a wheel there, and the Yamaha teams out in force as they really ploughed through these huge dunes in the Tenere. The Citroën had replaced Peugeot, Vatanen, Von Vondergaard and Jackie Ickx amongst the entry. We just saw problems that Mione was having a GPS. This is the problems that the Citroën team had in the Nega Pass back in 1991, all getting lost for about an hour. Bikers, Stefan Petter Hansel for Yamaha, Eddie Ordioli and Jordi Arcarons for Cagiva. And very, very hard racing, as has become the norm now on the Dakar. The bikes not having changed that much, you can see, over the years, nor have the crashes. And Jean-Pierre Fontenay putting on a brave chase after the Citroëns, but there was nothing they could do to stop Ari Vatanen winning his 4th victory in 5 years from Lartigue and Fontenay. So for Peugeot, Reed Citroën, and the wins still keep piling up. Ari Vatanen wins, and Petter Hansel wins the bikes for the first time from teammates Gilles Lallet and Terry Magnaldi, just 170th of 406 finished. We'll look at today's stage at 551 kilometres to Neymar, 60 kilometres of off-road tracks, and then a 500-kilometre section of the little-known Algeria to Mauritania trade route, hardly used nowadays. And back to Mauritania after all those troubles in Mali, including bivouac thefts, as well as the shootings the other night and the theft of a Tatra truck, which happily was picked up. Well, the bikes, still 88 of the 172 starters in the running. John Deacon well up there, and those of you who've been following John's progress, the Flying Cornishman, a little bit more about him in a while. These scenes around Timbuktu, one of the Tuareg towns, 15,000 people in a sacred town until the turn of the century. A place where Europeans were definitely not welcomed. Still an important trading post. Stefan Petterhansel, 20-minute lead this morning, leaves first. Incidentally, he'd had a second engine failure yesterday, Monday, and replaced his engine with the original engine, which had been rebuilt after being changed last week. Now, the rules say you may only change engines once. They're claiming it's the same engine they put back in, and the stewards today agreed that they can do that and told everyone else they can replace one engine twice if it's the original engine. Stefan Petterhansel passing Giovanni Sala on the KTM in 7th place. This is Fabrizio Mioni, no problems today with his GPS, 3rd on the stage and 3rd overall. Saying it's very difficult for me, I've got some problems, I'm tired. Maybe I started a bit too quick. Eric Bernard also. So I'm looking for the petrol halt here, very difficult stage here, a lot of camel grass around. 11th on the stage and 10th overall today. Worried about the fuel, in fact they find the fuel, there it is. Waiting for them at the midway point, but Petterhansel has gear selection problems yet again, just as he did 4 days ago. It's not completely broken, he said, but it's pretty loose. I'm just trying to tighten up as much as I can, so that if anything happens on the piston, it breaks, I'll have a bit of an advantage. Mioni saying at least the GPS is working, and it is difficult. I've got some problems and I'm a bit tired after my bad day yesterday. I started too quickly, I think, and then I've had to slow down a bit now. I'm really finding it hard. Richard Sainz, difficult stage, he says, at this halt. Very sinuous and twisting with soft sand, and the fuel supply is a long way, 330 kilometers into the stage, and like many, I'm afraid that since the beginning that I wasn't going to make it for the fuel. I was afraid of the fuel consumption, so I went a bit slow. We'll have to see. Well, that seemed to be the point of most people, but Sainz wins that stage. 1989 French Enduro champion, and he was first on the Atlas Rally last year, riding for KTM, 27 years old, from Saint-Afrique in France. Petterhansel on the #1 Yamaha, still keeping off all those KTMs, and just look at the conditions they're going through today. That soft sand then turning to this harsh, rocky Mauritanian landscape. Oh, down goes Mioni, 3rd on the stage. He falls in this pass right on the border between Mali and Mauritania. Our cameraman and one of the French press agency photographers just happened to be at this point. Not the place you should fall down. Mioni gets going again, as we see Jean Broussy, 15th on the stage. But running quite a long way down the order at the moment after early problems. This man crashed. Paulo Marques, the Portuguese KTM rider, may have broken his collarbone, as we had a quick word with him about what had happened. Well, it's not too serious. He said it's I've got an old problem in my right knee as well. I can't move the knee at the moment, so I've just stopped, and really I feel at the moment my health's more important than my bike. I may have damaged my shoulder, I don't know. I had a good race until now, but I'm been a bit unlucky on the Dakar. That's why I was a bit anxious before the start. I hope it'll be better next year, but I don't think I'm going to be able to go on. The pain is too much. Well, more seriously, another crasher, Spaniard Antonio Boluda, 39-year-old Cagiva rider. After a fuel stop, was getting up to speed, crashed heavily. The bike wasn't so badly damaged, but he hit his head hard. He is in a coma tonight, and he's been airlifted to Dakar, the first really serious injury of the rally. Well, as others go through, news on Cornwall's John Deacon. He's 12th today on the stage and back up to 7th place. Just 1 place from that magic top 6. And keep those messages coming in on the internet. That website for John Deacon, www.johndeacon.co.uk. UK. And support John, he is doing great things at the moment, supported by Nick Ashley and Maidenet. So the news is that we just said 7th today for John Deacon, climbing back up the order. Can he make it up into 6th tomorrow and then better before Dakar? Took 31 minutes off the man in front of him, Giovanni Sala, and he in fact, and Paolo Marquez, the man who crashed there, passing Sala on the stage. Well, some of the reactions of those in the running today. Richard Sainz telling us the problem was the fuel was so far, as I think I told you at the stop, and I was really worried about consumption, so this morning I had to go slow. 100 kilometers for the supply. I realized I still had enough fuel left, so I speeded up, but would you believe I lost my saddle 50 kilometers before the supply? I had to slow down again. I was sitting on the chassis basically. After that it was a bit better, but in the vegetation there was a lot of thorns. I'm weaving amongst the camel grass. I got thorns in my arms and hands, which rather hurt my arm for a bit. Nothing serious there. Peter Hans all the same. He said he's got a lot of thorns in him. It's been long and tiring, very physical. Everything hurts, the back, the arms, the legs, all my muscles. Well, has been a hard day. Well, it's a difficult stage. Had a good first part, riding fast, but I had to slow down because I was tired, and the end of the stage was really, really hard. Very fast, 500 kilometers, but camel grass and everything littering the way. And then Paul Krause, the American, 4th on the stage, despite his GPS failing. Let's hear what he's got to say.
I passed most of them, and then from the fuel I had 3 guys to pass. And once I got past those 3 guys, it was free sailing and easy for me to do.
Well, the bike results today on the stage: Sainz from Peter Hansel, from Mioni, American Kraus, Cox, Angelado, and just outside the top 6 there, Jimmick, Arcron, Sotelo, and John Deacon, as we said, in 12th place. Let's look at the overall results. Peter Hansel from Sainz, Mioni, Sotelo, Hayden, Cox, and Deacon in 7th place. He is now only 43 minutes behind Alfie Cox of South Africa there. Can he make it onto the leaderboard tomorrow? We're back with our coverage of the Dakar Rally, the 20th edition. We're having a quick look now at the logistics side of the rally. This concerns the doctors and the medical aid to those injured riders. We saw earlier in the program what happened today, but this rider injured in Zouerat, one of many seen by doctors within minutes. One of the Nissan Tiranas that rolled here, and their vehicle,
if you are still painful,
drivers being warned by the doctor, you must look out for concussion. This is Herbert Scheck at 65, the oldest competitor in the rally, in pain. He fell the other day and he's being lifted back as well. We talked to Dr. Christian Noel, who's one of the chief, well, he is the chief medical officer of the rally. He said, here we have received the injured brought in by our helicopters. This is our field hospital. Because the accident the other night in Zouerat was very serious, we had to contact Zouerat Hospital. Our surgeon, anaesthetist, and all our equipment was sent over to the hospital. We only use their electricity, their room, and their operating table. Well, not only are the doctors having to help the injured, they're having to take part in the rally themselves, and this happened to one of their medical cars. This is a doctor's car that rolled over, got it back in the rally after some running repairs. Well, if you'd been here 2 hours ago, you'd have seen 2 doctors under the car trying to work on it, doing mechanics. It doesn't look anything like a doctor's surgery in Paris. So what a great job they all do. And amongst the help there, Dr. Ali Ajefi, working in the local hospital, also helping to treat the injured. We talked to him.
They need help. They need psychologically help also, because they are alone. Sometimes they are tired, so they come at night here, even late. And there's always someone here, 24 hours per day.
Well, not only that, but they also help the locals and look after some of the local children who've got ailments here in this part of Africa. Another example of the Dakar doing good everywhere it goes. Well, time for our flashback on this 20th edition of the Dakar Rally. This is the 1992, the one that didn't go to Dakar. This is the Paris-Cape Town, the Paris-Le Cap. 332 starters from Paris, and they went right down through the centre of Africa, through equatorial Africa, through Namibia, areas they have never ever been, many had never seen. This was Salvador Servia, the singing Spaniard. Larder driver extraordinaire. Not the only singers you'll hear later in the programme. Citroën were there, and the Duc de Bourgogne buggies, the French chicken king, was there as well as the Mitsubishis, and what a great drive by everyone involved. Hubert Auriol, the man everyone was looking for. Here's the Citroën, there is one of those pink buggies. But the danger always present, and Gilles Lallet, Yamaha rider, killed on the 13th stage after a collision with an assistance vehicle. In fact, the 29th fatality since the Dakar had started in 1979. Well, here is that stage we're just talking about, Nemota Djika, 749 kilometres, including just 4 kilometres of liaison, and reckoned it was going to be one of the hardest stages of the rally. Let's just see what happened. Well, temperatures in the mid-30s as we see David Castera. He has retired hurt after 2 crashes on the rally. He was 18th yesterday morning when he had his second crash, and he retired last night. As he told us, in agreement with my doctors and my manager, Heinz Kindergartner, I didn't go on. I fell 2 days ago. I was a little bit unconscious. My body hurts me. I tried to run yesterday. It's quite impossible. I'm too tired. I can't ride. Also out, Carlos Sotelo retiring after a crash with a shoulder injury, having started 9th. I finished the special yesterday, he told us, and then 10 kilometres later there was a little bump, nothing special, and I was thrown off the bike on the liaison. I crashed, the bike rolled over me. I was okay because I was protected with my arms, but the bike was destroyed. I don't have any spare parts, and I have to stop.
No tenemos recambio y creo que no voy a poder seguir.
Richard Sainz, Tuesday's winner, lost time in second place to Mioni. He had GPS problems. Let's hear him on board. We're running on a good track, he said, in between trees, but we had to be careful not to touch those trees because they're full of big black thorns and they hurt a lot if you catch them. So losing that second place back to Fabrizio Mioni. As we pick up once again Stefan Pethansel, 5 times winner and now more than 30 minutes clear of Mioni in the overall lead. On board Mioni now. Today I made a mistake on navigation, he said. I took the wrong track. I think I probably lost a few minutes. Indeed he did. He was only 4th on the stage with more GPS problems after the first checkpoint. Oscar Gallardo and Andy Hayden riding together. Hayden, incidentally, the Australian Safari Rally winner many times, injured his wrist in a crash on Tuesday, so he's taking just a bit easy today on the 24 bike. Here he is again, though, going past Jordi Arcarons, who started 8th this morning, so Hayden not slowed that much. Stefan Pethansel arriving at its checkpoint, no problems. Well, he said till now it's been quite okay, it's not so difficult. Everyone told us it's going to be a hard stage, but we're taking our time, paying attention not to get lost today. I fell once in the dunes in the soft sand, but that's okay, that's normal. GPS problems again for Fabrizio Mioni for the 3rd time on this event. He's getting more and more furious, just will not work. Organisers now supplying the GPSs and he very, very unhappy, wants to use his own. What about Richard Sainz? He had GPS problems as well. He was lost for an hour and he told us it worked till 10 kilometres from the start and then nothing, just stopped working. Absolute disaster for me.
J'étais quoi? J'étais 2 km à côté de la piste et les dunes étaient très molles. Je me suis ensablé 20-30 fois au moins.
So at one stage I went about 2 kilometers off the piste and that was it. I was totally lost and terrible trouble finding my way back. Richard Zeidt again there in the deep sand. Fabrizio Mioni, 4th on the stage and 2nd overall, as you heard earlier, after Zeidt problems. Alfie Cox, the South African, he started 5th this morning. He was 2nd on the stage. What about John Deacon? You're all waiting to hear, I know. Well, after Sotelo's retirement, he should have moved up into 6th place, but he had a bad stage today. Took an hour and 19 minutes to run the stage, slower than Hayden. Cost him 2 places. He's now 8th tonight behind Sala and Jimming, both of whom he was leading last night, but he's only 29 minutes back. And of course, there's still a lot of days to go on this event. Don't forget, get those messages to John on his website, www.johndeacon.co.uk. We understand you've been swamping the site.
C'est pas terminé. I'm just changing the airport.
So, Peter Hansel finishing the stage. Very tiring, he said, and it's not over. And this is just at the fuel stop.
The engine to the end.
Fabrizio Mioni, I'm not feeling very well, he said, so I'm just trying to run without falling, that's the problem. Man totally tired out now and frustrated by his GPS problems. Jean Brucy on one of the 2 surviving BMWs. He stops, he's got a hole in his radiator and he is going to be out of the rally. He'd started 16th this morning. I broke the cylinder head gasket, he said. I stopped because the light was on. I checked the oil and water, found there's a hole in the radiator, put the water of my own water bottle in the radiator, it boiled, now it doesn't want to work, there's no more compression. So he's taken out, as is Philippe Bermudes, the Yamaha rider, 96th this morning, but he's got a shoulder injury, it's got worse and worse. Doctors tell him, I think you should stop, and he says, yes, I better stop now before it gets any worse. So the doctor calling for the evacuation of Bermudes and Brucey out of the stage. Alfie Cox 2nd on the stage, and Hayden wins the stage.
Today was good fun, yeah.
As we said, Andy Hayden winning the stage.
I hit my wrist yesterday with a big crash, so I started off quietly and to find out that a lot of people got lost at the first fuel, so that sort of jumped me from sort of 8th or 9th up to about 3rd. So from there on, I've just sort of tried to stay with the bunch, and that's what's happened, yeah.
So Peter Hansel with a 33-minute lead over him, and no assistance tonight, of course, as they head for the fearsome Chinguetti Dunes tomorrow. Fabrizio Mioni saying the stage was long and difficult, like an enduro race, a lot of rocks and turns. There was a little of everything on the tracks. It was difficult, and I'm not physically fit now. We're close to a very important stage where the bikes have to be in good condition. No assistance tonight, so, well, we'll just have to see how it goes. Andy Hayden, stage winner, Mioni 4th, and Alfie Cox from South Africa 2nd on the stage. We asked him how it went for him today.
It was good. I lost a lot of time this morning. I was stuck in the one sand dune, and I think I probably lost 15 minutes. And I work it back slowly, and then from the last benzene home, we catch up to Stefan, but he was not riding fast. And I have no road book, so I was a little bit worried, and then I see the 2-track path about 80 kilometers from here start. Looks like there's a big truck being on it, but my GPS is working, so I think, well, this must be the way. Put gas and stay behind him. It's great.
So today's results, Hayden Cox, Peter Hansel, Mioni, Archerons and Sala. John Deacon, as we say, finishing a little bit down today, 16th on the stage, dropping him to 8th overall in the standings. What about the other Brits? Simon Pavey, 54th on his Honda. Nick Craigie, 73rd on his CCM, and his friend and teammate Vinny Simon, 76th on his CCM. So those 4 British and Irish still in the running on this 20th Dakar. We're back with Eurosport on the Dakar. If you're just joining us, just to recap, that Andy Hayden won today's stage. Stefan Pethansel still leads the rally, but we lost two riders today, David Castera and Carlos Sotelo. Sotelo's fall from third place should have put John Deacon further up, but he had a slow stage today, and he's dropped 2 places to 8th overall behind Sala and Jimink. Now, Richard Sankt had a lot of problems. He lost second place because of problems with the GPS. GPS problems. Now, this is global satellite positioning and organised by Axel company. First time teams have not been allowed to provide their own, and Stefan Pethansel tells us that technique tells us where we are, longitude and latitude, and is picked up by satellites. We can program only 10 points on the day's passage. GPS tells us the direction in which to go to these points, the distance left to go to the points, and the cap, the actual input point that we are using when we're running. Not just used on bikes, of course, it's also used in cars. There you can actually see it working, the little green screen on the left-hand side. Hubert Oriol explains how.
70s, we had nothing. We had just a little compass, the same as you can have in a helicopter or a plane, and maps, and the road book, and that was it.
Indeed, these are early days of the Dakar. Looking back over some of the past 20 editions, it literally was plot and bash. And this is the sort of problem you finished up with. Again, Stefan Pethansel.
On peut même pas dire qu'on se perd avec le GPS. Maintenant, on s'égare.
We can't really ever get lost to the GPS. We just stray off a bit. We might miss a pass or a valley, but we always know where we are roughly because we can program our position and find our way back to where we are on the map.
We think it's necessary to stick back to what made the Dakar, what made adventure, and that's why we decided in TSO to limit the capacity of the GPS in the memory. And now the drivers have only 10 points to make the navigation and to make the stage.
Heinz Kinnegadner and one of his chargers, Fabrizio Mione, who's had all those problems on the rally, and says, well, next year I want to have my own. I don't trust the organisers' GPS anymore. Well, flashback time on this 20th edition of the Dakar, looking at 1993, the 15th Dakar, when only 154 competitors started for all sorts of economic reasons in Europe. Came down to Mitsubishi versus Citroën. Citroën now running in the red, which they used until they pulled out last year. And the big fight between Lartigue, Oriol in the Citroëns, and Bruno Sabi for Mitsubishi. Sabi never yet won this event. And here going down through southern Algiers, the spectacular landscapes of Tamanrasset, El Gulair and the Hogar Mountains, and into Mauritania. Some of the most spectacular and beautiful countryside in the world. Sadly, since the problems in Algeria, not used so much now. Polini trucks, this is Alfonso Polini himself, based on Italian airport fire trucks, winning the trucks. Stefan Pethansel leading the bikes, winning for the third time from Charbonnier and Archerons, all on Yamahas. Bruno Sabi then wins for the first time for Mitsubishi from those two Citroëns of Lartigue and Hubert Oriol. Didn't work anymore. Well, that was yesterday. Let's have a look at today's stage. 394 kilometers from Tajika to Attar. Yes, that's where the perfume comes, Rose of Attar, through the famous Chinguetti dunes. Second day of a marathon, no assistance allowed last night, and shorter, but big navigation problems. Well, of the bikes, just 71 of the 172 starters were left in the event last night. We have lost 60% of the entry, with the rally only 2/3 of the way through. Stefan Pethansel, rally leader since last Thursday now, waiting for the off on his Yamaha. Can he win it for the record 6th time? Other bikers looking like ancient warriors waiting here in Mauritania. They know it's going to be a hard day ahead of them today. Fabrizio Mioni starting second. Alfie Cox of South Africa starting fifth. Eric Bernard of France starting ninth. Richard Sykes on the number 5 KTM starting in third place overall. And Gerard Jemink on the green KTM, the Flying Dutchman, starting in 7th place overall. Well, Fabrizio Mioni, an early casualty of the GPS. It's the 4th day, he's had problems. It's all gone wrong again. It's a big, well, I won't mention the word on air. Now just look at the scenery here in the Chinguetti Dunes in the middle of Mauritania. This is the real Dakar. Stefan Peterhansel picking his way amongst the rocks as through comes Alfie Cox. A lot of problems finding the route today. Even for GPS works, even if the road book's good, how do you work your way out of this maze? Stefan Peterhansel, though somehow charmed as always, just picks his way through them and continues at speed. Jordi Arcaron still in the running. Despite a lot of problems, 6th on the stage today and 8th overall in the rally. Alfie Cox we picked up, heading towards Attar on the final sections of the stage here in this wadi, a dried up riverbed. Climbing up out of the valley as our helicopter picks up more people stuck in the dunes. Now this is seriously deep stand. Here's Stefan Peterhansel coming up behind Alfie Cox. And the going is really tough now. This sand is so soft, the bike's just sinking it. If you stop for a second, it's get off and push, using first gear and hope you continue. Look at Peterhansel, what a master of these conditions. Surfing on the sand. Well, they have to work their way through this. Just look at the minuscule bike there, dwarfed by these ergs, these moving crescent dunes in the Chinguetti. Riding together, Gerard Jemink, the stage winner today, moves up from 7th to 5th place overall, and Alfie Cox alongside him, 3rd on the stage today. Stefan Peterhansel stuck again, right on the crest of a dune. He's going to have to dig this way out of this, but 4th quickest nonetheless, and giving very little of his lead away to Jemink. Mioni, who's 2nd on the stage, and Alfie Cox.
This sand is very soft.
Alfie Cox telling us just how soft it is. Well, Jordi Arcaron's arrived close to Richard Sykes. Sykes out of the race with a seriously broken chassis on his KTM. There's nothing Arcaron can do. He just shrugs encouragement to Sykes, but look at Sykes, tears in his eyes. So disappointed. The Frenchman then told us, well, the frame's broken at the point where the shock absorbers are fixed to it. The frame's basically collapsed. It's down onto the rear wheel. I don't think there's anything I can do because the rear wheel's touching the fuel tank. I can't go on like this in the dunes, and I think I'll be extremely lucky if I can get to the finish today. So what bad luck for Richard Sykes, the young French rider who had so many hopes, crashing out of the rally though a couple of times and really riding just to attack the whole rally. Off he goes on his new KTM lowrider. Wouldn't look out of place in a Harley-Davidson shop. Well, group of riders were turned back today. They were told by one of the medical helicopters they're going in the wrong direction. They're waved back. And at the time, we believe Britain's John Deacon was 4th in the running. Also in there, Jürgen Meyer. And Deacon losing 2 hours and 2 minutes, dropping him to 29th on the special stage. Having, as I said, been, we believe, 4th at one time today.
We understand there have been protests, but as no French riders are involved, well, surprise, surprise, it seems no actions have been taken. And it's dropped John Deacon down to 9th at the moment, but that's only one place down from last night, and there's still another 3 days to go after today. But we talked to Jimmy, Meoni and Cox about their day.
I make a very good day because in the beginning of the track was a little bit difficult, but after 30 kilometers it was a little bit sandy, and Saint passed me, and I was together with Saint, and we had a lot of speed, and we catch the top guys after 100 kilometers.
Una speciale?
Well, Fabrizio Meoni saying, I thought this stage would be easy today, but there were a lot of stones and rocks. It was not so easy, with a lot of turning on the rocks, and you had to really concentrate all the time. It's very important, because if you lost your concentration for one moment, you'd fall. If you fell amongst those rocks, you'd have a long job of getting the bike out. Nonetheless, second overall after being second on the stage, but still 32 minutes behind Peter Hansel.
And then the last 50 kilometers home, we all decided to go a little bit harder and get to the finish, you know. But basically, it hasn't been it's been a hard day. Even though it was 350 kilometers, there were many stones today. I mean, we can't believe it's the Dakar, because the Dakar is meant to be sand, and today was more like an enduro more than a rally. But all in all, it's a good day.
Today's bike results: stage 14, Tajika to Attar, Jimink, the Flying Dutchman, winning from Meoni Cox, Peter Hansel, Hayden and Jordi Arcarons. As we said, John Deacon in 29th place, and after what seemed to be a bit of an organisational mix-up there, doesn't drop John too far. He's in 9th place overall behind Peter Hansel, Meoni, Hayden, Cox, Jimink, Bernard, von Zwitzwitz and Jordi Arcarons just ahead of him. 5 hours 55 minutes down on Peter Hansel, but still 2 hours ahead of 10th. We're back on Eurosport on the Dakar, and we're looking at Cape Town's Alfie Cox meeting Adelaide's Andy Hayden. Both KTM
my name's Alfie Cox, and I come from South Africa. I'm 35 years old. I had my birthday on the Dakar, 6th of January, which was something special. It was the longest day of the Dakar, 1,060 kilometers. It was one of my best days that I had on the Dakar as well.
My name is Andy Hayden. I am from down under Australia, Adelaide in South Australia, and this is my first Dakar. I'm on a support ride with KTM after in Australia I managed to win the Australian Safari. About the same again behind you, about 20 minutes.
Cox, meanwhile, a Roof of Africa winner.
I started racing in 1978, first with motocross, because that's where we all start out, and then in about 1983 I changed to rallies and enduros, and that's what I've been doing. I've been with KTM for the last 6 years. What? You gotta go. GPS man. Yeah. You, mate. No, he's gotta go. Mine is good. No.
My GPS has also given me problems. This one was in Australia. We did not use GPS, so this is my very first navigation, and yes, I am having some trouble with navigation. My GPS is playing up. Maybe 1-2 days I've had good GPS. The other days it's been playing up, giving me problems.
The last few days at the bivouac, every hour he came to me. Kenny, did the truck arrive? No. Fuck, shit, boom. Headache every day, I tell you, headache.
So portraited two of the greater characters here on the rally. Alfie Cox of Cape Town, that well-known honeymoon destination, and Andy Hayden of Adelaide, former Grand Prix city.
If I come back again next year.
Eurosport's television studio set up in the desert there, as they just finish off with a quick late-night banter.
Turned up at Versailles there for scrutineering for our bikes, so we went out to tea there.
Versailles.
If you believe they had a cup of tea in Versailles, well, you're dreaming. Well, here's the night bivouac at Attar, where Briton John Deacon, riding with Plymouth-based Australian Andy Coker, was among several bikers who lost time. John tells us all about it.
I feel like I want to go home now, you know. It's like the race is finished for me after today's disaster. The guy in, I think, a medical helicopter stopped me on the track and told me to turn around and go back to CP3. I didn't understand why, because he spoke very little. He spoke hardly any English, and so I returned back to the CP only to find out that he'd given me completely the wrong information, you know. This evening he has apologised and said it was a misunderstanding, but it's cost me 2 hours and 3 places, you know. I would be up to position number 6 now, and instead I'm 2 hours behind, you know. So I'm very disappointed.
Whenever you won a stage in the Dakar, and maybe it's for you tomorrow.
Well, no, because I don't feel angry like I want to go and prove a point, you know. If you can be consistent in this race, then I believe it's possible to finish in the first 5. But for sure, tonight I'm very angry. But I think it's the wrong anger, you know, to go to the line tomorrow and to crash, and you know, I just have to try and forget it and just take tomorrow as being another day, you know.
Well, that is Cornish understatement, as you'll find out in a minute. Scenes from last night's bivouac at Attar, and then today's stage coming up, shortened to 296 kilometres because of the threat of sandstorms blowing across Mali on the route to Boutilimit. Everyone getting really tired now after 16 days on the road. Still 3 more to go. Well, this is today's stage, as we said, shortened, the stage through the Adrar Mountains, a difficult stage anyway, with wadis, the dried up riverbeds, deserts, and many saying the hardest, but then also hampered by 75-kilometre winds. Some of the helicopters grounded today, and just 56 of the 172 bikes starting. Only one BMW is still remaining. The others all out with clutch problems. Oscar Gallardo and Andrea Meyer among 5 retirements this morning. Amazing stage, but difficult. The dust hanging in the air despite those sandstorms. Hubert Oriol, the rally organiser, took the decision to shorten the stage. And that's something that played straight into the hands of Plymouth-based Cornishman John Deacon. Many saying this is the finest part of the Dakar this year. The Adrar Mountains and the dunes. Hubert Oriol.
The sandstorm that we're just having now is quite difficult, and after all they had, it was not really necessary, but we shortened the stage because there's a very difficult area to go through today, and we decided it was unreasonable to send them there. So they stopped there, and but even if it's shorter, it's quite difficult with visibility, which is really, really bad.
And again, these spectacular scenes from the Dakar. It has not changed in 20 years, and long may it live. Stefan Pethansel and Jimmy Jimmink starting 1st and 5th overall. Jimmink on the green KTM, yesterday's stage winner, and Pethansel on the blue Yamaha, now with 32-minute lead as they started this morning. Even then today, people finding the route not quite where they thought it was. A lot of wadis and valleys. On board with Eric Bernard. Bernard telling everybody at speed, well, it's a hard stage today. It's I've been following Geordie and Stefan and the others trying to find the way. They had some difficulties finding a pass, which was in the village. Me too, because I was behind them. Peter Hansel riding there, still with Jimmink. And again, these incredible dunes just waiting to catch the unwary. Everybody following each other. Only 2 stages to go after today's. Out of the rally, Eric Bernard. Soon after talking to us, his suspension broke on the 16th of 18 days when lying 6th overall. I've broken the shock absorber housing, he said. I'm really disappointed because I've been so cautious over the last 15 days. I was 6th in the general ranking today, and I'm sure I could get up to 3rd place, so I'm extremely disappointed. So Bernard out of 6th place. Of course, that meant John Deacon immediately having a chance to move up. And Deacon not only did that, he bettered everything by winning the stage by 14 minutes 57 seconds from Peter Hansel. He's back up to 8th overall after being 9th yesterday. And he is the 11th winner in 15 stages. Here he is. John Deacon from Saltash in Cornwall, sponsored by Maidenette, Nick Ashley and a whole host of others, and thousands of messages still pouring into his website. Don't forget it, www.johndeacon.co.uk. 104 messages came in this afternoon in the first hour after news broke of his win. And just to top all that, it's John's mother's birthday today. His wife Tracy also leaving a message. Excellent day, knew you could do it. Get home safe, your toothbrush is waiting. John Deacon left his toothbrush with his toilet bag in Spain and has been travelling, well, al fresco ever since. Jimmink, 5th on the stage, 5th overall. We just saw ahead of before him Andy Hayden, 4th on the stage and 3rd overall. Picking up Alfie Cox now, the South African. There he is, 6th on the stage and 4th overall. And Jordi Arcarons at one of the checkpoints coming in. He's in 6th overall, just 2 places ahead of Britain's John Deacon. Arcarons into the checkpoint, and right behind him, Fabrizio Mioni, 2nd overall today. But we talked to Peter Hansel, to Hayden, and of course to stage winner John Deacon. Peter Hansel telling us it was a weird stage today. It was very beautiful landscape, but we had sandstorms in the second part, which really prevented us from navigating as we wanted to. The tracks were getting blown over. Even the GPS doesn't help then. We couldn't see. This morning we got lost after 50 kilometers. Not a good day, but a beautiful special all the same.
Today, sort of the first bunch of 5 or 6 people get lost, and later on during the day I also get lost and try to find my way through the dunes and bury the bike a few times. But yeah, well, I'm here, so all I wanted to do was get to the finish, and saying tomorrow I want to finish tomorrow and get to Dakar now. That's my main aim. I'm not trying to beat anybody or trying to be quick. I just wanted to get to the finish. We'll go from there.
Wasn't so bad for me, you know. I didn't have any problems, and I navigated really well. There was lots of riders driving all over the place, so I just kept to my road book, and yeah, for me it's been okay today.
Is this storm set?
Yeah. Yeah, well, anyone that was riding in front of you, the tracks only took a few minutes to disappear, you know, so you really had to concentrate and do your own thing, you know, and not follow the tracks, or you know, there's lots of riders lost, and I don't think there'll be many people arriving tonight, you know. I think, although it's not been the most difficult stage because of physically, but because of the navigation and because of the storm, I don't think many riders will arrive tonight, you know. It's a big shame, because it's only, you know, when people think the race is over, it's always has a sting in the tail.
Well, a sting in the tail indeed, because as John said, a lot of them not arriving. We only had 32 at the moment out of the 49. As we went on there, well, that's what everyone's been waiting for on the Eurosport leaderboard. John Deacon, stage winner, equaling Fred Gallagher with Citroën as a stage winner, becomes the first biker in history
British biker in history to win a stage on the Dakar. Peter Hansel, Meoni, Hayden, Cox, Jimin and Archerons, top 6 places, and John Deacon in 8th. He is 5 hours, 40 minutes behind the leader, but only 1 minute behind von Zwietswitz. Well, again, on this 20th anniversary of the Dakar, look back at the rallies of past years. 1995 tonight, the 17th Grenada Dakar. Started from Grenada, not from Paris, you notice, and 247 starters, 103 finishers, over 10,000 kilometres. It was one of the faster Dakars. On the bikes, it was Peter Hansel on Yamaha against Archerons and Orioli. The cars, again, Citroën versus Mitsubishi. That's what happens when your onboard camera is too heavy. Sabi taking a nosedive, as were the Citroëns. In fact, Ari Vatanen, first casualty, he did a nosedive and burst the radiator on his Citroën. Borrowing water from the locals to try and repair the car, but their rally was not to last for long. Pierre Lartigue for Citroën winning the 2nd time from Bruno Sabi, and Kenjiro Sinizuka in the Mitsubishis, and it was hard racing as well. Jordi Archerons really trying to get that win, but again destined to be the bridesmaid and not the bride, because Stefan Peter Hansel on the Yamaha took his 3rd win on this 17th Dakar from Archerons and Eddie Orioli. This morning they could practically smell the sea at Boutelimit. 166 kilometres of sandy tracks taking them to the Atlantic, and then 147 kilometres down the beach from Mauritania at last into Senegal. Well, it was an early start for everybody today, pre-dawn. 55 of the 172 bikers left, and John Deacon, Britain's hero, in 8th place overall, just behind German Dirk von Witzewitz. Stefan Peter Hansel, rally leader, heading the 33% of the bikers still in the event. There's Alfie Cox, stage winner this year. He's 4th on the rally. And so rarely in the history of the Dakar has a quad ever finished. Well, 2 of them are still running. Senegal's Pierre Etard, here he is on his Yamaha 500. And Vickers van Deventer. They could be the first quads ever to reach Dakar. Alfie Cox, the South African, winner of the Roof of Africa Rally several times, he wins his 1st stage on this year's Dakar. In fact, his 1st ever, because he, like Andy Hayden from Australia, is a rookie. Here, in fact, is Andy Hayden chasing Cox on the stage, going past him. Hayden 3rd overall and 2nd on this 1st special stage today. Gerard Jimmink going through the scrub now as they head out of Mauritania for the Atlantic. The great adventure almost over. Andy Hayden again, and here racing hard. Peter Hansel and Andy Hayden going past him. Peter Hansel, not Peter Hansel there, Fabrizio Meoni. Meoni just keeping off Hayden. Hard racing and right to the end here. These two not racing for place overall, but racing more for the stage honours. Meoni 2nd, Andy Hayden 3rd. Separated by almost an hour. Gerard Jimmink, the Dutchman, comes through, 5th on the stage and winner of special stage 14 a few days ago. Germany's Dirk von Witzewitz, 5th last year, 7th overall today, and just 12 minutes ahead of John Deacon by tonight. Fabrizio Meoni
And in second place, despite those problems he's had, and Stefan Peter-Hansel on the Yamaha, 7th on the first special stage today, but still leading the rally. Well, there it is at last, the Atlantic, the first time they have seen sea since January the 4th, when they made the crossing from Granada to Morocco. This is what they've all been waiting for. 17 days since the rally started from Versailles in Paris, and charging down the beach goes Pierre Leblanc on his French Honda. And then we pick up Leblanc. Well, there's photographers here, I think. He said there must be a bump coming up, so I'll take it a bit careful. Gonna have to be careful if I'm going to arrive in Dakar. With Gerard Jimmink of Holland and Andy Hayden of Australia riding together on the beach. Jimmink wins the second special, the one down to St. Louis, and Hayden finishes second, respectively 5th and 3rd overall. What a great event for Andy Hayden, Rookie of the Year, certainly. Hayden winning 2 stages on this event, and Jimmink likewise with his success today. Well, there's today's final time control, and tomorrow just another 18 kilometers of competitive special stage, so it's all over bar the shouting. Fabrizio Mioni, second on the event, and Stefan Peter-Hansel, first on the event, come in together to today's final time control. Italian and French, KTM and Yamaha. In fact, on today, KTM took the top 8 positions on the stages. Stefan Peter-Hansel taking it easy, perhaps a bit too easily. He fell at one stage, and here he got a bit lost on another part. Everyone was told, just keep the sea on your right, you shouldn't go far wrong. We're waiting for Peter-Hansel, his wife Corinne, and his oldest son Nicholas, who was born in 1990, waiting for him at the finish. Hope everything's okay. It's 1 o'clock and we're still waiting for him to arrive here in St. Louis. We're a bit anxious because he's leading. It's not always easy. Well, he does make it, gives Nicholas a hug. This, incidentally, his 10th start, and it's looking like he's about to take his 6th win. What a record. Well, interviews, reactions today.
The first one was good for me. I win the first special. And coming now on the beach, attention for the engine. And I think a little bit of water maybe, papa, not sounding too good, so take it slow and make it to the finish. But the first special this morning was very good, very, very nice. I'm happy.
It was a good day for me. The first special go very well. It was very speedy, but this special was also very good. The first special, I think I was 2 or 3, and now I'm 1 or 2, I don't know. We wait.
Today's stage winners, Cox and Jimmink, as Fabrizio Mioni tells us. Well, it was okay today. It was much easier, but it's psychologically different. I'm 32 minutes behind Stefan for the overall lead. You've nothing to win, but everything to lose. And after the stages yesterday, I think the classifications were already fixed. Anyway, today you could have had a mechanical problem, broken the engine. I lived in hope it might happen to someone else ahead of me. You could lose everything. Anyway, I preferred to ride carefully. And the important thing was to avoid problems. No need for GPS today, so that was one monkey off my back.
Well, every year I say that I won't come back, you know, but I know that in a few months I will be already filling in my entry form for the following year. So at the moment, no, I don't want to come back, but for sure I will.
So our man John Deacon there, 8th overall on the rally, 12 minutes behind Von Zwiecewicz. And hope Tracy, his wife, is watching tonight. Hasn't he done well? Look at that. There's the stage results today. 6th overall on the stages. Very, very good. 4 minutes back. Keeps that 8th place. And riding together today, Simon Pavey, Nick Craigie and Vinnie Fitzsimmons, the other British bike riders, 40th, 46th and 49th respectively. They too are going to make it to Dakar. So 4 bikers will be making it to the finish. We're back with me, Mark Cole, on the Dakar, looking at the penultimate day of the rally. And this is the man who surely is going to win for the 6th time. France's Stefan Petterhansel, riding for Yamaha Motor France under the managership of Jean-Claude Olivier, a man who himself finished 2nd on the Dakar in 1985.
Je m'appelle Claude Valex, et je suis avec Stéphane.
Well, we talked to his mechanics, Claude first of all, who's worked for him for 6 years. We're doing the Dakar since the beginning of the year, then we're doing the French Enduro Championship and then the World Championships. We're nearly all year long together.
Je suis mécanicien de Stéphane depuis une dizaine d'années.
His other mechanic is called Michel. Here he is. Michel's been there for 10 years. I'm based at his home place all year long. We know each other well. We understand each other. We don't have to speak. Sometimes just a glance is enough. I think it's a good thing for him. It's, well, 6 times. Well, they're not the only 2 helping Stefan through the rally. He has a whole host behind him, 12 mechanics, in fact, altogether. And that's Yamaha France looking after 2 bikes. One of them, of course, out already, David Castera. Pedants were telling us Yamaha staked everything on just 2 riders because they're confident with this machine and the riders that they can win. KTM does the reverse. It has a lot of bikes, but they don't know quite who to concentrate on regarding machine maintenance. The Yamaha staff for 1 rider is much bigger than KTM. 6 people for 1 rider. Whereas in the KTM assistance, it's 1 for 1. Well, we've seen that, of course, with John Deacon and his teammate, Andy Coker. Andy, incidentally, 23rd tonight as they head down to Dakar, 8th and 23rd, doing it all themselves through Plymouth Off-Road, which is John Deacon's company. He does these adventure weekends as well, and I'm sure that he's going to be sold out for the whole of the coming year. With Stefan Petterhansel, 10 editions and maybe 6 wins tomorrow night. Well, flashback time on this 20th edition of the Dakar. And we're going back now just 2 years to 1996. Almost caught up with ourselves. This is the start of the Dakar in Morocco and one of the biggest crashes we ever were unfortunate enough to film from the helicopter. Bruno Sabia, his rally obviously over after this, although very happily, neither hurt. Problems also for Kenjiro Shizuka, who hit this gully, ripped the whole of his front suspension off. So those 2 cars out right from the start. Problems also for Ari Vatanen. There he is with a flat front tyre, and big problems also for the bikes. This is Fabrizio Mioni doing it furiously. Jordi Arcarons was another to crash out. And Stefan Petterhansel had fuel problems. So quite a big change round on the scheme. Jordi Arcarons, down he goes. He still finished though in 2nd place behind Eddie Orioli for Yamaha. He finished from Jordi Arcarons and Carlos Sotelo on the KTMs. In the cars, it was Pierre Lartigue and Philippe Vonberg for Citroën from, you've heard the name before, Jean-Pierre Fontenay of Mitsubishi. We'll be seeing more of him in just a moment. Well, this is the final day, just an 18-kilometre competitive section after they left St. Louis on the border with Senegal and Mauritania this morning, all the way down to Dakar and that loop on Dakar Beach. Well, these are the scenes in St. Louis this morning. St. Louis, the old French capital of West Africa. Been out of French hands for many, many years now, since Senegal gained independence. One time Senegal part of Ghana, but now perhaps one of the most attractive of the West African countries and very much a tourist destination, much more so than any others there. But these are the scenes as the
55 starters of the original 172 bikers left.
I feel a little bit nervous.
No tiene nada, son 18 kilómetros, pero puede pasar de todo, o sea que hay que ir con mucha calma.
Een klein beetje nerveus, maar ik voel me goed en ik heb er zin in. Het is normaal, hè? Een beetje zenuwachtig.
Sì, va bene, siamo vicini.
Well, it's Fabrizio Mioni, second at the moment, saying it's okay. We're near the end. All we got to do is ride carefully. We heard Arcarons and Jimink just before him, and organiser Hubertorio. Oh, no problem for me. It's the riders who are excited about it. So those massed 55 on the beach at Dakar at last. The last 18 kilometres after their journey, which has taken 18 days, 10,580 kilometres. And boy, does that Atlantic feel good. Just 39% of the rally still left in the running this morning. So we pick up with Holland's Gerard Jemink. 2 stage wins, 5th overall. Giovanni Sala and John Deacon of Britain. There's John jumping for joy in the foreground. A stage win and 8th overall. Sala behind him, 17th overall after a stage win. What a fine run by John. 18th today, incidentally, on the stage. That's Saltash, Cornwall's finest in action. Gerard Jemink again, and Fabrizio Mioni. And the others following on behind as they go just through this last part. As they come up to the Lac Rose, here it is, the pink lake, coloured that way by the salt, which this part of Senegal is famous for. And there's the finish. Masses of people, 12,000 people from the Senegalese capital pouring onto Dakar Beach this morning, Sunday, for the finish of the world's greatest adventure. Well, it's not all over till it's over, as they say. Giovanni Sala of Italy crashes on his KTM within sight of the finish. Arnaud Besnier of France on his moose, almost falling as well. Francois Flick, who won the very first stage all that time back in Versailles on January the 1st. He finishes in 19th place on his Honda. An American Paul Krause, we didn't see a lot of Paul on his KTM, an American rider finishing 15th on the rally, following in the wheel tracks of Chuck Stearns and Danny Laporte. Will an American ever win the Dakar? Well, certainly not while this man's still riding. Stefan Peter Hansel of Yamaha France, first over on the rally after 3 stage wins, and he wins it from Fabrizio Mioni. Here he is, the Italian, in 2nd place. Man who won 3 stages on the 96 Dakar, but hasn't quite made it this year. Mioni really foiled by problems with GPS 2 or 3 times. Well, Stefan Peterhansel arrives on the podium, wins by 30 minutes after 62 hours in the saddle. I just want to thank the complete Yamaha France team, he said, and especially Jean-Claude Olivier, my manager. He was the first to give me a chance to do my first Dakar. That was 12 years ago. He supported me in the first years when I was not doing so well, and he believed in me enough to bring me to this 6th victory in Dakar. 10 times I've done it, 6 times I've won it. The message is, whatever happens, even if we never go back, many thanks to the Yamaha team and the Yamaha family. Jean-Claude Olivier, who incidentally himself finished 2nd on the 1985 event, said it was a long-term strategy to enter Yamaha and the Dakar for 20 years, try and conclude our history on the best note. It's the story of one man, though, Stefan, who has a unique record, 6 victories. Nobody's done it before. He's beaten Cyril Neveu's 5 wins, and he's been able to go alone amongst everybody and manage to face the pressure with a lot of skill. Well, for Fabrizio Mioni, didn't quite make it again. The 45-year-old motorcycle dealer from Italy telling us the 2nd place has given me a big satisfaction. For me, it's a good result. It's my best yet. The KTM is wonderful and deserved to win, but Peter was too strong, and he finished 2nd behind him. It means a lot to me. That in itself is a big honour. Champagne for Hayden.
The soft sand, the dunes with the soft sand, you could not tell, and and you would go right straight into the sand, and you would bury, your front wheel would go straight down, and you would have to dig it out, and that for me was much harder than anything else, for sure.
So Andy Heyman, Rookie of the Year, the Australian, 2-stage wins and 3rd overall. Well, this is Andrea Mayer. She didn't make the finish on her BMW, but here she is anyway. Well, she told us the story about after her clutch problems. Some 4 days ago, she left the bike in the dunes to look for help. Coming back, she tried to find it again. It was impossible. It was pitch black in the middle of the night. So the next morning, I was more successful. We were able to repair it. And just when I wanted to restart, there was a sandstorm. So we had no chance at all to get out. I spent another night out there in the desert. Finally, the service team and myself were able to follow the rally route here again. So here we are. We made it, even if we're out of time. Well, just a quick flashback at the Brits. John Deacon 8th, as we've already told you. His riding partner, Andy Coker from Plymouth Off-Road, finishing in 23rd, also on the KTM. Simon Pavey on the Team Bike Magazine saddle, 19th today and 40th overall. Ireland's Nick Cravey, 46th, and Vinnie Fitzsimon, 49th on the Team Ireland bikes. Well, there's the results of the stage today. Geordie Archeron's the man who wins his first stage on this rally, but not so meaningful, just 18 kilometres. Nonetheless, he did it, and Jimmink and Dirk von Zwietwitz finishing 2nd and 3rd on the stage, but there was no way they were going to catch Stefan Petter Hansel, finishing 30 minutes and 29 seconds ahead of Mione Hayden Cox, Jimmink Archerons, but of course, the big man, John Deacon, as far as all the Brits are concerned, 8th overall. Just a final look at some of the images of the 1998 Dakar. Will Petter Hansel be back? We have to wait and see for next year. And a word for the 2 quad riders who made it to Dakar, Etard and Van Deventer. Among the great stories that we told the last couple of weeks, myself and commentator Ben Edwards, who brought you the first week, the Japanese journalist who walked 150 kilometers back to Zverat with just water in his handheld GPS when he broke down. He then took the $100 taxi ride to Attar to rejoin the rally. It was the shootings in Gao, shooting of Mitsubishi and Tatra trucks. Tatra truck stolen. One of those, the Mitsubishi, shot through the turbo of Koen Waters, is leader of the Belgian band Clouseau, what you might call a shot in the dark. The BMW support truck that got shot at 2 days later by the Mali army, thinking it was the Tatra being driven by the crooks. There's the German bikers who arrived in Gao to find there wasn't enough fuel for them and 15 others. They were sent back to the checkpoint before, where they found there was only 10 litres of fuel. On the spot, all 15 were out. John Deacon, the British rider, man from Saltash, sent back by helicopters, losing 2 hours. But the next day he came back with vengeance, winning his special stage, the first Briton ever to do so in the bike section. And that, all on his mother's birthday. Then there was the GPS problems, blamed on television onboard cameras. Nothing to do with us, but it cost Mione certainly a possible win. This is the face of the Dakar, the image of the Dakar. It's been our pleasure to bring these to you for the last 18 days. And thanks to everybody involved, especially to the Terry Sabine organisation for their nightly pictures from the desert. Andy McDougall of Maidenhead for his help, and for Ben Edwards, who brought you the first week, and myself, Mark Nolan.